All right, so good morning. We are going to be starting in about 2 minutes. We are running a couple of technical tests and we should be fine. We were alerted that there was a potential link that might not have been working, but if you go to the city calendar and information, it is working. We have quite a few people already in. So if anything, like you guys always like email the city clerk if you guys need any support when it comes to it, okay? So give us about 2 minutes and we'll start. And we are gonna go from the public hearing straight into the budget. We might have a small break in the middle for run a couple, restroom breaks and make sure we have everything we need. All right, so give us about 2 minutes and we'll start. All right, perfect. So good morning. We're ready to start our day. Thank you for everybody that's joining us. We are actually working hybrid. The council and the staff and directors are here at City Hall. And because the space is ridiculously limited, we have our community online in order to make sure that we do have our feedback as well. So agenda for the public hearing regarding the proposal real property tax for FY26 for the city of Rainier, Maryland. This is a virtual hearing for today, Saturday, March 22nd, 2025. I'll go ahead and do roll call. Luke Chesek.
Here.
Valerie Woodall. Jared Stoffus.
Here.
Neil Carter. Here. Okay, and I'm here that we have a full quorum. Okay, perfect. All right, Valerie, can you move on to number 2, review of the agenda? And you only read the hearing for right now.
So the agenda of the public hearing, 1, call to order, we just did that. 2, review the agenda. The mayor and city council will review the agenda here. Reading, having or doing the conflict of interest or discussion. 3, public hearing regarding real property tax for FY26. 4, public comment, and 5, adjournment.
Thank you so much. Okay, and we have consensus on the agenda? We're good? All right, hearing none. No disagreement, we have consensus on the agenda. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna be moving on to public hearing regarding the proposed real property tax for FY26. I'm gonna go ahead and read the rules of engagement so that we're clear from the beginning of what the rules of engagements are. The mayor and city council invite and welcome comments at public meetings. The mayor presiding officers will recognize you. Please introduce yourself first and last name for recording purposes and give the name of your street and block number, IG 4300 block of 34th Street. Please indicate that in the chat whether you would like the mayor to read your comments or you will speak on your comment. Public comment has a time limit of 3 minutes per speaker unless otherwise agreed on by the mayor. So we're doing 3 minutes. While speaking, please maintain courteous tone, avoid personal attacks, and if you wish to lodge a complaint about the performance or conduct of any city employees, please bring your concerns to attention of our city manager, Mr. Kamali, who will look into the matter and respond to you. As a courtesy to other residents and businesses, the council requests that speakers not use a specific address or names of individuals when describing a situation or making a complaint, noting the block is preferred over a specific address. So a reminder to council, this is the portion for the community, not for us. So we listen and we don't judge part, right? So let's make sure we listen and that's where we're at. Okay, so reading the description, we are gonna be opening up to public comment at this point. Do we have anything on Facebook, Jared? I'm trying to pronounce the D as hard as I can, Jared. All right. Is there anything on the chat, Millie? Who's looking at the chat, you or Jared? Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay. Wait a few minutes and then we will move into the work session for the budget. Nothing? Okay. All right, everyone. I am closing public comments at this time for the hearing. Can I have a motion on the floor to adjourn at 9:42 p.m. a.m. Sorry. This will probably move and second. Any discussion, objections, abstentions? Hearing none. The public hearing has come to an end at 9:42 a.m. I'm so used to p.m. And you know what? Look, that way you guys don't feel like I didn't do it once in my lifetime, right? All right, perfect. So anybody needs a rest break, or you guys want to go straight through? Straight through. Okay, perfect. We have whoever we need on deck right now. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Kamal. All right, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the agenda for proposed FY26 budget for the work session of Mayor and City Council. This is a virtual work session for the community. We are in person at our temporary city hall. Today, Saturday, March 22nd, 2025. And this meeting was scheduled to start following the public hearing. All right, we'll do the call to order, though nobody has moved for the records. All right, Luke? Here. Back. Here. Jared? Here. Danielle? Here. All right, so we have a full quorum. Thank you so much. So, oh, here, look how great you guys are. Happy. So the meeting has been called to order at 9:44 a.m. Right, Valerie, can you go ahead and do a review of the agenda, please, for the virtual work session, budget work session?
The agenda for the proposed FY26 budget work session of the council. Items for discussion: number one, call to order. We just did that. Two, review the agenda. The mayor and city council will review the agenda for the meeting, adding or deleting topics of interest or discussion. Three, proposed fiscal year 2026 budget review. The mayor and council will review the proposed FY26 budget. Number four, public comment. Number five, adjournment.
All right, and for the record, I'm gonna go ahead and read again the rules for public comment, okay? The mayor and city council invite and welcome. And yeah, you guys do understand this is a script because we want to make sure that it stays the same. All right, the mayor and city council invite and welcome comments of the public at meetings. The mayor reciting officers will recognize you. Please introduce yourself first and last name for recording purposes and give the name of your street and block number, IG 4300 block of 34th Street. Please indicate in the chat whether you would like the mayor to read your comment or you will speak on your comment. Public comments have a time limit of 3 minutes per speaker unless otherwise agreed upon the mayor. While speaking, please maintain a courteous tone and avoid personal attacks. If you wish to lodge a complaint about performance, the conduct of any city employee, please bring your concerns and attention to our city manager, who will look into the matter and respond to you. As a courtesy to all the residents and business, the council requests that the speakers do not use a specific address or names or individuals when describing situations or making complaints, noting the block is referred over other specifics. Okay, so that is our rules for public comments. And at this moment, I'm gonna go ahead and move to item number 3, proposed fiscal year 2026 budget review. You guys excited? Even brought like fresh pens to like sharpen and everything. All right, perfect. So I will go ahead and see this moment to our city manager. So in the room, so you guys are aware, we do have our clerk, our finance staff, administration, communications. We have I always forget your title, your complete title. Finance, you have a long title and a heavy one. A finance staff, accounting superstar is here in the room as well. So, and we have our directors that I will come in and out through the day, depending on where department is being heard. All right, so I'll cede the floor to Mr. Kamali our city manager to start. And we'll move on, how do you call it, to whoever you have on that, Mr. Kamali.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, Council. Good morning, City of Mount Rainier. Appreciate your time. So today we are here to go through the proposed FY 26 budget for the city departments and city committees. So having said that, I wish you guys a good day and please be patient with us through this process. I will turn it over to our finance consultant, Mr. Ron Wilson. Start reading section of the budget.
So can you guys do me a favor, as you guys are reading, I will ask you guys to like name that page so we could follow with you guys and the community could follow with you guys as well. So that way it's a little bit smoother for all of us, okay?
All right, we're gonna start on page 6, which is the tax rates.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Sorry. So, by way of overview, we are proposing no changes to the tax rates for fiscal 26. So in detail, the residential single family rate will remain at 75 cents per $100 of assessed value. The apartment multifamily rate will remain at 86 cents per $100 of assessed value. The commercial real property rate and the industrial real property rate will remain at 79 cents per $100 of assessed value. And the townhouse rate will remain unchanged at 75 cents per 100,000. So the blended constant yield tax rate for fiscal 26 is 76.85 cents per $100 of assessed value. Our business personal property tax rate will remain at 99 cents per $100 of assessed value. Turning to page 7, the railroad and public utility tax rate will remain at $2.75 per $100 of assessed value. And the vacant developed property tax rate will remain at $2.50 per $100 of assessed value. On page 8, we have the fee schedule. It's many items. I'm not going to read them all, but by way of overview, they remain unchanged from fiscal 20. Page 16 is the personnel schedule for the city. The personnel schedule is unchanged from fiscal 25 and fiscal 24. For City Hall or general government, we have 3 FTEs. I'm sorry. Full-time. Yeah. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you have,
FTE, full-time equivalent.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
The administrative government positions are 5 full-time equivalents. Economic development has 1 full-time equivalent. The police department has 23 full-time equivalents. On page 17, code compliance has 4 full-time equivalents. Public works has 10 full-time equivalents. So for the city in total, we have 46 full-time equivalents. And like I said, that's unchanged. Page 18 is the organizational chart that just lays out all of those positions and the reporters' relationships. Page 19, well, actually, we don't need to go through all of those. So let's go to page 22. This is.
And just for the public, page 19 is just explanations. So if you have any questions on what line item is, you go to those pages and get information or feedback. So the team has been very good at like putting information for the line items in order to better explain the budget. Okay, thank you guys for that. Go ahead.
So on page 22, we have the schedule of general fund revenues. The real property tax is budgeted for $5,384,521.57. I'm sorry, these are the fiscal 26 numbers. Vacant developed property tax is 100,000. Business personal property
Can you go
tax.
ahead and read the line item next to like the 41,
okay,
whatever it is,
sure.
that way we could follow. Because at the beginning, we're gonna be okay, but as it goes longer in the budget, it starts like diluting. So go
Sure.
ahead.
So 4102, business personal property tax is $50,000. Line 4103, railroad and utilities personal property tax is $130,000. 4105, interest and penalties on taxes, $10,000. 4106, penalties, late fees on business personal property tax, $3,000. Line 4107, county admissions and amusements, $2,500. And line 4108, shared state income tax is $1 million. So the total for tax revenue is $6,680,021.57. The next section is licenses and permits. 4,200 residential rental licenses, 500,000. 4,201 business occupancy licenses, 9,000. 4,202 cable and FiOS revenue, 35,000. 4,203 vacant building registration fees, 5,000. Line 4,204 building permit fees, 5,000. Line 4,205 TV revenues, franchise fees, 60,000. 4,206 parking permit revenue, $400. Line 4,207 tree removal permits, 500. Line 4,208 mitigation impervious fees, 2,500. Line 4,211 church occupancy licenses, 500. And line 4,212 other licenses and permits, 5,000. So the total for licenses and permits is $622,900. The next section is intergovernmental revenue. Line 4301 SHA MOU is $16,779. Line 4302 state highway user fees, $341,337.76. Line 4303 state police aid, $229,122. And line 4304 county disposal fee rebate, $22,180. So the total for intergovernmental revenue is $609,418.76. The next section is charges for services. Line 4400 parking meter coin revenue, $20,000. Line 4402 trash hauler fees, $3,000. Line 4403 fees for city services, $200. And line 4404 other service charges, $3,000. And then the total for charges for services is $26,200. The next section is fines and forfeitures. Line 4500 parking violations, $15,000. Line 4502 municipal code violations, $7,500. Line 4503 impoundment fees, $15,000. And line 4506 speed camera violations, $800,000. So the total for fines and forfeitures is $837,500. And the last section is miscellaneous revenue. Line 4600 interest on investments, $150,000. Line 4602 rent income on the Miles building lower level, $42,000. Line 4604 sale of city property. We don't budget for that because it just happens when it happens. Line 4605, solar credits revenue, 6,500. Line 4606, insurance damage recovery. Again, we don't budget for it. It just happens when it happens. Line 4608, Mount Rainier Day revenue, $1,500. Line 4699, miscellaneous revenue, 5,000. Line 4609, bike co-op revenue, 3,500. And then we are not budgeting for financing revenue or use of fund balance that we have used in prior years. So the total for miscellaneous revenue is $208,500. The total operating revenue is $8,984,540.33. We are also budgeting $2,696,800 for grant revenue. And that's detailed in the grant schedule that we'll see later. So the total revenue with grants will be $11,681,340.33.
All right, perfect. So let's take a pause right now. Council, do you have any questions regarding this page? I do want to point out that the revenue, the general fund, it is a 20% decrease from last year. So be very aware as, you know, as you're asking or thinking of stuff, because the reality is like we are living in very, very uncertain times. So I'm thankful that our team is like foreseeing a very, you know, conservative budget to make sure that we are bracing whatever is to come. As you guys know, there's a lot of residents in our city who are fair employees, and they work in the various fields that right now are being cut, right? And you can see our general fund is heavily based on taxes collected from home revenues. So be very aware that that is the case. So we are presenting, the team's presenting a very conservative budget to make sure we account for that. For the grants as well, there are some grants that are no longer accessible, and that's definitely gonna like affect the bottom line. I know that we have maximized our funding because we heavily go after grants. That's not gonna change because some grants are no longer available, you know, and we don't know what else is there to come because there's been threats of other grants being removed. So I definitely thank you guys for putting something, you know, conservative and stuff like that. And if there's a need to tighten up even more the budget, we'll be like tying it up even more to make sure that we could account and for sure not leave beyond our means, because this is not the time to do that. All right. So Council, I'm gonna go around if you have any feedback regarding any questions regarding any of the items. So what the process we're gonna try to do is like after each of the departments, after everything is read, we'll go ahead and open up for questions. So that way we at least allow the team to read through it, take a water break, because it's gonna take a lot from them, right? But also address it as we go. So the other thing to point to the community, we are not voting on this budget today. It's mainly a read through, a question, and a work through that we usually do. And it was adopted, how long ago did we adopted this? Luke, maybe
3 years ago?
no,
6 years ago?
maybe longer, yeah. But it was mainly done because we used to stay until like sometimes 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, having the budget in between the meetings, and we didn't feel like it was conducive time for our staff or even us after a long, you know, work session to go into a budget. So we decided to pull it on a Saturday to get through the whole budget. At least we know 1, 2 things. Everybody in council and staff has like gone through every single item of the budget together, not separately, because everybody's very diligent and they go on their own, but also the community has heard the whole entire read through. All right, so those are my feedback information, and I'm gonna go around the room, and this is just questions or comments when it comes to general fund revenues page only, okay? Let's make sure we stick to extra chapters because it's gonna be very hard to follow through if we go back and forth too much. Luke, I'm gonna go ahead and start with you.
Okay, just thank you guys so much for all this work. And to just echo a couple points for clarity for the community. One on the decrease in grant revenue of 44.5%. That is a big number, but that was an expected number. We had a lot of big one-time grant revenue from the American Rescue Plan Plan Act. That was the Biden administration. As soon as it got in power, a bunch of money went out to communities. And I think the city did a really good job of allocating that revenue for one-time projects that would not have a carryover effect on future budgets. So if you notice the state of Maryland right now, they spent a lot of their recovery money on programs, and now they're dealing with an issue where they got to shut down those programs because they don't have the funding for it. We didn't do that. So if you notice when Mr. Kamali and Ron were walking through our FTE count, that has gone unchanged from year to year. And so we've done a really good job of making sure the grant revenue didn't inflate our operating budget. We've kept the FTEs flat. We've kept our programs pretty much flat so that when we deal with this money going away from the federal level, it's not really putting a hit on the services that residents come to rely and expect on year after year. So I think that's really good. And so so don't get too concerned about seeing that drop in money. The other thing I want to make sure people are aware of, if you look at the FY25 actuals and then the FY25 budget and the FY26 proposals, sometimes you might see, like, I'll move your attention to line item 4102, business personal property tax. You'd see that we budgeted for 50,000, but our FY25 actuals are only 25,000. So at first glance, you might say, why is that number so low? Well, it's low because these are the actuals only up to December 2024. So we still have a big chunk of the year to get revenue to close out those figures, which is why you see the FY26 proposed budget closer to the FY25 budget than the FY20 actual, because the FY20 actual isn't showing the entire year. So no need to freak out about that. So overall, when we're looking at this, I think this is a really good picture. I think it's a testament to the hard work that staff has done to make sure that we are prepared for times changing, so that we don't have to make cuts to programs and services that residents come to rely on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for putting that together. It's good because that was easier for our community to also follow along, but also to make sure we're on the same page as Mayor and Council, right? The other thing to point out is, like, anything that we went ahead and added that if we wanted to carry on, the team started working to make sure it was part of the budget in the future. That's the reason why we heavily focus on the one-time item and how to utilize it, because a lot of people are currently now and in a lot of problems, because of that. You cannot sustain that much money that came in. And mind you that we fought really hard, when Mr. Kamali joined, was that to make sure that we got our fair share of COVID relief, ARPA funding, right? That allowed us to do so much work, but at the same time, we were cautious that although we have fought and advocate every single meeting that I've had, right? That this is the way to directly impact us, to send money directly to municipalities, because we know exactly what it needs to be done and how to best utilize it. We understood that it was a time one funding, but we'll continue fighting to make sure that that model continues to duplicate. But we did not went crazy with it, because if not, we'll be in serious trouble right now. And I think, especially with the timing, I think none of us want to be put in a position to increase taxes. And I think that our team has done a diligent job to make sure that doesn't happen. So thank you guys for that as well. And thank you to the whole, to this council, but also like former councils. We also had the vision to make sure that we were diligent with it as well. All right, Jared, you got next?
Yep. Yeah, I just want to thank staff, Mr. Kamali, Ron, just everyone here for putting together another budget. I know this is a huge lift every year, just in the size and the scope. And I just want to kind of echo Luke's thoughts. We've been judicious over the past several years and how we're thinking about revenue and how we're thinking about spending, reducing or maintaining the tax rate. For the last several years, as Luke noted, we've been judicious about increases in operating costs, right? So we're continuing to deliver same level services with a steady FTE count. City staff in particular have been fantastic about, the support of mayor and council, about grant resources that have allowed us to do things far, far bigger than our city's budget normally allow. See the grant revenue that's tacked on every year to the city's operating budget. I mean, those are millions upon millions of dollars that we've got from the county, the state, or the federal government that is enable us to do things, especially one-time capital projects that we would not otherwise have resources for. So I really thank everyone for doing the work, the lift to get there. That gets us resources that we don't have to go and ask our residents. So to deliver on. Just one quick question. Or two very quick questions. One, the vacant development,
Line item.
sorry, thank you. Under tax revenue, item 4101, vacant developed property tax. The proposed amount is lower than in previous years. Is my guess is that is movement potentially on the property on the corner. Or what is called in the differential there?
Well, that particular line item goes up and down all the time.
Okay.
As a vacant property becomes unvacant.
Yep. Got it.
So we
Okay.
try to budget that one very conservatively. It has been high for the last couple of years, but we don't expect that to continue.
And the second quick question, under fines and forfeitures, 4506 speed camera violations, we are considering, we amended our code, we're considering the potential implementation like other cities as now allowed by the state of stop sign cameras. I know it would be impossible to obviously project what that's going to look like when we haven't done it and we haven't got approval from the county folks yet, but just a note that I think maybe in future, I don't know if we keep that there, if we break it out separately as a line item, but that's an item I think hopefully we'll be able to utilize.
Yeah, definitely. We're waiting for the county council to approve it. And then we have to go through the bid process. So I don't know when we're gonna be able to bring revenue in. At that time, definitely FY 27.
Yep.
It's going to be there, that revenue.
That would be a revenue generator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Assessed on folks that are violating stop signs in our town, which is primarily almost entirely folks that are using our city as. So just want to clarify that.
Well, thank you.
Outstanding questions. Thank you for that. And the other reason why, it's not there is heavily because they want to make sure they don't over project because we need to figure out what that looks like. So the idea of those signs are for people to be able to shift their driving behavior. So we're hoping heavily, right, that this means that people are making the right stops. And if they're using cut through, they realize that there's penalties for not following the safety rules, right? But the big thing with the cameras is that safety first. So want to make sure that we don't overpopulate, that's generate a bunch of money because want to make sure it's focused, obviously on safety. And if money comes through, they could always amend the budget to showcase what's coming through on it in order to but there has obviously costs associated. But that's the reason why they usually would not put, especially with the program being so new. And once we get clearance for the county council, different areas have been submitted, and then we'll figure out what that looks like. But again, the big purpose of it is safety, not generating funds. All right, perfect. Danielle and then Valerie.
Okay, thanks. I'm just gonna echo what the guys have already said, so I can save some time. Thank you guys very much for putting this all together and being so cooperative and coming here and willing to discuss this with us in the community. Jared already asked the question on the difference on 4101, but I just want to clarify because we have potential council members watching us today. That difference, when they see that number go down, that means that either a home was occupied, a business is occupied. So the decrease there is now going to reflect in business taxes or property taxes. So the decrease there is not a loss, it's going to be seen reflected in another line item, correct?
Well, except for the fact that the rate for occupied dwellings is so much lower.
Yes.
Right, but the business side, but we'll see that increase though in another line item.
We'll see some increase in another
Not the
line.
same.
Right.
Right, not nearly as much as we lose from.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but there will be some, so,
Yes.
right, okay, and then my question, clarification for those watching as well, but on line item 4500 parking violation.
Yeah.
That's a huge decrease. Does that have to do with the parking meters not being turned on out there? Why such drastic decrease?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is we have seen a multi-year drop in parking revenue. And the budget is just catching up with that. So that $65,000 budget number in the previous year was not near reality. So
Right.
we took another look at it, determined that it needs to come down.
And also, just bear in mind that the parking meters revenue are on line 4400. And this parking violation or the violation that we get from the area that is restricted, and people are parking, so it's two different line items.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And we have Municipal Collection of America, it's called MCO,
Mhm.
that we're going back like since 2015, and we are collecting some of the old tickets. And the revenue is coming, so it could come next month. That's why we're just, projecting a number right now. But definitely this is gonna go up a little bit, but we don't know how much. But parking meters, yes, we did have some problem going through the process to put the pay station, remove all this parking meters.
Mhm.
And I mean, right now to bring a new vendor, and hopefully it's gonna happen in summertime. Hopefully we're gonna have a pay station and get rid of all this parking meters and increase the revenue by having the pay station. And streamline the process for the community and visitors and whoever is, passing by.
Thank you for
Thank you,
explaining that,
guys.
for me and, for those that are watching. One other question, and this is just clarification again for people who are watching. But, the decrease in the, cable and the TV revenues, can you explain that for those who may be watching? Because they don't get the same emails we do, so they have no idea.
So I just want to make sure that for council members, the same rules apply. You have about 3 minutes. We could go around again, but let's try to keep the information comprised. So if you have 2, 3 questions, get through it, because I want to make sure that we do not spend a lot of time. So make sure that we go around the room, okay?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Kamali, answer that one, then move
Yeah,
on to
people
Valerie.
are just, not really having cables anymore. This days technology, you could see everything HBO, everything on your phone. So that's why the revenue is dropping and it's impacting our city big time.
It's been on a multi-year decline.
Yeah.
Right.
I would anticipate that, that at some point in the future, it'll be close to zero.
Yeah.
Right, as cable TV just goes away.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to
Okay.
clarify that for people who are watching.
All
Thank you, Mr. Kamali.
Perfect. So, a point of clarity to make sure that, because I think there was a bit of confusion of what it looks like, vacant property tax for, this is $2.50 per 100 square footage. And our team, Ron, went ahead and read for homes are 75 cents for 100 square footage. So that gives you a gigantic drop. So it's not apples to apples. It's like big drops. So I don't want people to think that if something, it becomes now like, occupied, it's going to be the same amount of money. It goes nowhere near it. So that's very important. And that's the reason why you see some adjustments, but it's not going to be equitable on the other side. So let's make sure we keep also that in mind, because I don't want to give the false illusion that, that if something becomes occupied, automatically we're going to be getting the same amount of revenue. There's also a process as they're going through permits to go through it, that definitely changes a little bit, the equation and numbers. Valerie, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everyone for putting this together. We thank you for laying out that this 20% drop is not operating. We look at every year, looks like for operating revenue, measured every year is about $9 million, no matter what year it is. So I think that's pretty critical. I don't have any questions right now because everybody else asked questions. So
Thank you.
thank you. I will stop.
Thank you, Valerie.
I will get you to number 1.
If I might, just to clarify.
Yeah.
So the operating revenue in this budget does show a decline of 7%. That's because we have $1 billion use of fund balance in last 25. If you take that out of the equation, we actually have a small increase in the other revenue, about 3.5%.
But again, Ron, that's a projection. You
Yes.
cannot count on that 3.6 increase because I don't know, maybe highway user fund is gonna drop. Right now, they just gave us a letter and they said, be advised, that's not the final number.
Yeah, so highway user revenues, the revenue we collect when it comes to our highways is given by the state. You guys know there's about a 3 billion deficit in the state budget. And right now we're also waiting to see what the Medicare and Medicaid equation from the federal government to the states are. And if the portion of the state increases, that's also going to take a hit in their budget, which means it's going to take a hit on all of our budgets. So there's a reason why we asked from the beginning to please be patient with us as we go through the whole entire process. And we are gonna be following the information as closely as we can to ensure if there's any changes that impact us directly, both for the federal, state, or county. We are fully aware of that happening, okay? All right, perfect. We will be moving on to the next
Page 38.
page 38. And page 38 is, oh, our big gigantic mayor and council budget. Go on.
Okay. Wages and leave pay, these are the stipends for the council members, $40,000. Employee
Collectively, not each,
Not-
not by each.
Five,
Yes,
5 minutes.
Five
Five.
person city council. Employee benefits and services, line 5,100 FICA, social security, $3,060. Line 5,106 unemployment insurance, $1,100. And 5,107 retirement contributions, $1,040. So the total for employee benefits is $5,300. Next section, professional services, line 5126. Professional contract services, $1,000. The next section, other services and charges, line 5506, travel expense for $6,000. Line 5513, flowers and gifts for $500. So the section total for services and charges, $6,500. The next and last section is community activities. Line 55, city sponsored meetings, $5,500. We do not have a budget for line 5529. We actually will just take that out of this for the future. Line 5530, conference and convention expense, $12,000. Line 5531, association dues, $8,000. Line 5533, we do not have an election for fiscal 26, so that has no budget. So the total for community activities is $25,500. And the total expenses for mayor and council are $78,200. There are no grant expenses for mayor and council.
all right, Valerie, go ahead.
Thank you. Deborah. I think the only two things I would note is, first, I would say, don't take out mayor and council retreat. Line item from the
No,
budget.
no, we're not gonna do
We don't have
that.
funding in there right now, but,
Okay,
I would keep that in there.
all right, that's fine. Yep.
And then the other thing I would note is that, our conference and convention expenses, that's just on par. There have been a few of us going to more conferences and conventions to get loans.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Jared.
I'll just echo Valerie's comments. Thank you.
Danielle.
The 5530, the conference and convention expenses, we did a budget amendment, just a few weeks ago, to increase it by 11,000 because we had more people. Should that be increased?
No,
or
that was
mean
only for
council or
FY
not?
25.
Right, you said that, we increased because more people were going. Should we increase that or?
It came about because of the way that we had been accounting for the conferences. So what would happen in prior years is that the expenses were going on credit card, which wouldn't get paid until
Exactly.
July. So that's when the expense was hitting.
It was.
What we have done is we've changed that to now accrue that in June in that fiscal year that it happens.
Right,
So that created a one-time catch-up in fiscal 25.
Mm.
That won't recur in subsequent
thank you
years.
for the explanation. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
I have concerns about the line item 5505, city sponsored meetings. Is that the line item that elected officials use for events?
Exactly.
Okay. I would like to zero out that line item. I think that causes a lot of unneeded discussion and time out of city council meetings. I think if there's an event people want, I think the recreation committee does a good job of having quarterly events. I think if there's an outreach event that's happening, it's covered in other line items. And I would like to zero that out because I think that creates a lot of issues. And the city is doing a good job with events. We don't need elected officials to have like their little events. I think that's just not smart. And I think we need that money to help support the Gateway CDC and sustain the investments we've made there. And so I'd like to consider that movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. I would say the 5529, go ahead and leave it. Okay, because we should be having, anytime a new council is changed, should be having a retreat. If we're gonna change it to a different position, it's fine. Just, if we decide to put it in that line and figure out where we're gonna put it and add it to the summary of it, that's fine. But, let's make sure we allocate some money for a retreat because it's, it's very important.
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry, we're not buying to move the line item last time, you guys remember that we had to pay $5,000 for the expenses, so
Yeah.
we always keep the line item and that's, it's not.
So I will say that, for the line item, I know it's a 0 right now. We might gonna have to put some money in it because that's more or less what's gonna look like.
Can we do something? Just leave it the way it is. And when time comes, I know how much I need, then we may be able to adjust our budget and,
So
find it because I always have a contingency. I can just,
100%,
yeah.
but I will say to you something like the retreat's gonna be happening somewhere in June,
yeah, I know.
right? So it's gonna be for this fiscal year, so we might not need it for next fiscal year, so we should be fine.
Yes.
But at least put a little pin on it in case needed,
Yes.
but I do not wanna be
No.
spending taxpayer dollar on people not following through their commitments on retreats. Or or whatever we wanna call them, all right?
Thank you.
When it comes to the city sponsored meetings, I hear you, Luke, and I think we might have to figure out what is it that we're gonna do with it, because it does create a lot of problems, okay? We might have to, call it something else, but I think us going to the rec committee as council members is not the way we need to be doing, because we should not be funding, our own personal events and meetings through that budget. I have a big concern with that. Those are for, we have, in the city, quasi, community output project, which allows various of our communities to community committees to be able to make decisions, bring them on, and the city manager always checks because he is responsible for this budget final line item as long as we are. So my whole thing is I don't want it to be where we need to go to a rec committee. I don't think it's that. I think that they budget for the various events in order to do it. And I think that us going to the.
That's not what I was saying.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just clarifying it. So I'm sorry, I don't mean using it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to make sure that's not it, but if there is something else that we have to put, as something else to be able to host some events that were not necessarily on the budget, even if this means it has to go to, there's another line item in the budget. Yeah, that one, if we need to fill another line item there to
Yep.
be able to give the staff to be able to do it, I do agree with that. That might be another option to move money to a different line item, and that way we don't have to deal with this line item here. Okay, so that might be my suggestion to like move it there. So that way at least it's filtered to somebody else. We don't have to go to the committees. I think that they're doing a good job on what they need to do. The city manager is responsible for clearing everything else on. And if there's a problem, they bring it to us, right? But that way at least we'll allow for that to be in case needed. There's something else that it could be addressed, but I think we've done a good job of the list of community events, and it's on page 49, has increased by a lot. The city didn't used to have this many events, and this is the reason why now the rec committee focuses on certain events that now majority of the time, the city has taken over or partners with somebody else to take over. So that definitely has increased, because the reality is we don't, as more people attend our events, it needs a lot more funding. And this is the reason why we partner with others, because they have money, we have money, we put our resources together to make a bigger event, because on both ends, we don't have enough money to increase. So, okay, perfect. All right, thank you guys.
Can we discuss that in another round? Only two
we-
got to plan on that, and there's three others.
We
Okay.
could, go ahead, Jared. You have a point?
Yeah, just on that, I concur with Luke on this. The reason this is, I think a little history on this, the reason this line item has been here historically, as Selena mentioned, is when there was a time back in the city when mayor and council were actually carrying a lot of the event organization themselves. We had a significantly smaller staff. The city had very few actual organized events, and it was kind of this ad hoc volunteer thing. And I look at this line item as a legacy of kind of our old sort of budgeting process and organization process. I have not used this in 4 years because I think what we've done is we've worked with the city, like for the things that we're looking to do as a body, as a mayor and council's body, work with the city, sometimes the committees, but often with the city to organize things that otherwise, and I agree, it's created challenges, there's confusion around it, and the approach is a little odd relative to how other cities do it. So I think going forward, as we mentioned, there's a better approach.
Perfect, Danielle, and then Valerie.
To give a little more history on this, years ago, before you came on, there were events happening, because I was chair of the recreation committee, we were doing a lot of events. This line item was allowed, Selena, Chevali, and other members of the council were using it to supplement events, of course, and do things like Selena was doing,
Mayor. Go ahead.
mayor,
Just,
mayor,
mayor,
was-
wait, I'll give you another round if you need to.
Oh, no, I was
Okay,
just-
okay?
Yeah.
All right,
may I continue?
go ahead.
Okay, great, thank you. Mayor, who was council member at the time, helped the stockings for seniors by supplementing it with this line item to help the downfall or the shortage that was there for recreation committee. I've spoken to other council members who were on council before, and this line item is meant to be to pay for community meetings, for the council member to have meetings with their constituents in their ward and so forth. I understand where Luke's coming from, and I respect that. But I think that with a whole new council coming on, we have potentially three new council members coming on. I think to zero this out and not give them the opportunity to potentially use it to communicate with their, potentially three, with their constituents, I think would be disingenuous.
So I'm sorry, can you clarify, because there's only 4 council members, so how are 3 council members coming in? Because
There
I
are
know
three.
Valerie is a council member, right?
There's 2 council members up for election, for election, because neither one of them are running, and neither is up for, yes, there is 3 new.
Okay, good to know. But anyways, are you done with your point?
I think it would be disingenuous to zero it out, because we do have potential 2 definite coming on, and they may want to have meetings with their wards and their constituents. And again, I feel the contention and everybody whispering while I'm trying to talk. This is what's been going on for 2 years while I've tried to do things as simple as going and doing $40 for donuts and coffee for teachers at Thomas Jones. Stop, Jared, please. I'm trying to talk and you're sitting here animating in front of me. It's rude.
Danielle, can you please stop, because people are being respectful when you were doing it earlier as well,
No,
when
you're
Luke was
not being
speaking?
respectful.
Okay, Danielle, I'm asking you to please, because when Luke was talking, you were also being animated, and Luke was very respectful not to call you out. So I'm asking you to please, this doesn't need to be tense. It's a conversation.
Right.
We're
and
getting
I'm
a
trying
turn.
to have
So
that.
I'm speaking now. We're having a conversation. I think that we are being, the council member in front of me is not cutting you off. He's having a feeling about what you're saying, and so great for him to say it. He's been in council for quite a bit of time, so he knows the history as well. So, and I've been in council for the last 8 years, so has Luke, so I could tell you on the other end what it is and what it isn't. All right, so I want to make sure that we need to stop this centralization of it. If not, this is never going to go on it. And the reality is we need to get through a whole long budget of it. People are expressing their opinions about the line item. I want to make sure I'm respectful that Valerie hasn't spoken. And if anybody else needs to add, and I'll go ahead and say something, that we stay within our time. But honestly, at this point, you let's also remember, First round is 3 minutes, the second round is 2 minutes, the last round is 1 minute. And we're not being respectful of that. And we haven't even gotten to, not even like 90% of the budget at this point. We haven't even passed beyond mayor and council. It's like the smallest little budget that there is. Go ahead, Valerie, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. I think, that this line item has been troublesome to the council. I think if you look at the history of the actuals over the last 4 years, we're hitting about like $800 per year in actuals instead of 50. I do see the value in having some funding, and mainly because, for example, we are hosting a ribbon cutting, and it would be good for us to support that ribbon cutting. So I think there's something to do in terms of using the fund for specific city sponsored events that are managed and run by the city, and give the council the ability to afford.
Thank you so much. So that will be a line item under, like for ribbon cutters, we always put money in the Department of X in order for us to do it. Most of our ribbon cutters are heavily tied either with econ or public works, right? So that is something we could also do. And as a historical context, yeah, I used to do events because they were not in the city budget. So I had no other choice but be able to pull out of the line item. I know Luke also did that at one point, but the need for that no longer needs to be done. So I'll give you guys an example, right? And I have participated in several of like the spring egg, right? As one of our biggest events, right? What has been happening is like the city didn't have a line item for the egg hunt. Now it does. And if the need arises where like more money needs to be allocated for the future, then that's a discussion we need to put forward. But other than that, you know, dropping, you know, when we talked about like a community meeting, I'll give you a simple sample. For me, it's not just the ribbon cutting, it's the fact it's been 2 years worth of meetings with community members, and this is like the youngest community members and our teachers regarding a project, right? There wasn't one on it, that's the reason why we put it there. But if in the future there's a line item where that could be addressed, I'm fine with that, right? But I definitely don't necessarily feel like that needs to take place anymore because it does create a lot of conflict. And, you know, the definition for some people, what a community meeting is, varies so much. Like community meeting for me is like, I work on a 2-year project. We're gonna go have like a final like event with the kids to have a sit down and basically like, you know, talk about what their experience, you know, what they went through, the things that they see and why is it that they selected stuff like that. And it's not necessarily here's like donuts and juices and thank you for coming, right? So there's 2 different perspectives of it. So I would say that for me, I'm fine if it's moved somewhere else to create a different line item under community, under page 49, the community on it, or a subcommittee or a subline under mayor and council, that works fine. Under a different heading, that's okay with me. But I definitely don't feel like the extra need that it was there at one point, because we no longer need that extra money to run events. And if it's not allocated correctly, then we need to do a budget amendment to allocate it correctly. And that's something that we have power to do.
Okay. Again, I think this should be zeroed out. And I think if we have 2 or 3 new people come in, I think it should be zeroed out because that's, you don't want to keep the culture going of using this line item. It's actually an opportunity to make sure when new people come in, they don't have any expectation of this existing. You get a stipend. Every council member gets a stipend of $677 every month. They can use that money if they want to go buy $40 donuts. They don't need the city sponsored meetings. All the events on page 49, I think, are more than enough events. I don't think we need to create a new line item under the community activities on page 49, because this is plenty of events for the city. If there needs to be a ribbon cutting, it can come out of professional services, and the city hall line item doesn't need to be tied to any mayor or council event. Thank you.
Hey, perfect. Mr. Kamali, go ahead.
Yeah, I just I do appreciate everyone, you know, inputs, but we don't have to create any line item look for that. We have a miscellaneous expenses in the city hall.
Great.
And we can always, you know, put it over there, and how often we have a ribbon cutting, and we can cover it in that line item. So there is no need. And going back to the community activities, we are spending $100,000, 103. And I think we have enough community activities, and I do appreciate council, the new ones, the old ones, they can participate in those, you know, activities and talk to their, you know, constituents and connect with them not to use another line item because I, as a city manager, have a trouble with that line item. And I do appreciate that if we could just, zero it out for now until sometimes in the future, if we are not here, somebody else is gonna change it. So
All right, perfect. So let's move on from this one. Remember, this is not the only time we're gonna look at this budget. I don't want us to hyper here and we do have a long, it's already 10:37. We're already like 7 minutes behind and we actually started early, so we're beyond what we need to be. What is the next,
Page 43, City Hall.
page 40? All right, go ahead, Ron.
Okay, so the section line $5,111. Employee bonus $1,500. Line 5,001 overtime pay $1,000. So the section total is $302,511. The section employee benefits and services, line 5,100 FICA expense, $23,142.09. Line 5,101 life insurance expense, $200. Line 5,102 dental insurance expense, $2,487.41. Line 5,103 medical insurance expense, $71,908.70. Line 5,105 for comp insurance, $1,451.47. Line 5,106 unemployment insurance, $10,135.38. Line 5,107 retirement contribution, $34,244.25. And the section total is $143,569.29. The next section, materials and supplies. Line 5,200 office supplies for $7,000. Line 5,201 postage and delivery for $2,500. Line 5,202 computer equipment and supplies for $1,000. So the section total is $10,500. Next section is professional services. Line 5,399 strategic planning, currently no budget. Line 5,400 professional and contract services, $210,540. Line 5,401 legal and professional services for $50,000. Line 5,402 professional services computers for $70,000. Line 5,403 professional services annual audit for $60,000. Line 5,405 office equipment lease for $18,000. Line 5,406 office equipment maintenance for $1,000. Line 5,408 bank charges for $3,000. Line 5,409 vehicle tracking expenses GPS for $6,000. Line 5,410 recruitment and testing for $1,200. Line 5,411 employee training for $5,400. Line 5,412 temporary labor for $45,000. Line 5,413 classified advertising for $2,000. Line 5,414 printing and copying for $500. Line 5,416 public official liability insurance for $4,000. Line 5,417 general liability insurance for $38,000. Line 5,419 other general insurance for $1,000. Line 5,420 payroll expenses for $70,000. So the total for this section is $505,640. The next section is other services and charges. Line 5,503 team building for $1,000. 5,506 for travel expense, $250. Line 5510, historic preservation tax credits, $12,000. Line 5511, city homeowners tax credit for $30,000. Line 5512, the veterans and long-term resident tax credit for $50,000. And line 5599, miscellaneous expense for $2,000. So the section total is $95,250. The next section is community activities. Line 5530, conference and convention expense for $5,000. Line 5531, association dues for $1,000. Line 5532, subscriptions and publications for $350. Line 5558, community development for gateway, currently no budget. Total community activities, $6,350. The next section is infrastructure and facilities maintenance. Line 5600, building and repair and maintenance for $18,000. Line 5605, telephone, $70,000. Line 5607, alarm services for $1,500. Line 5608, property taxes for $3,500. Line 5610, electricity for $39,000. Line 5613 for heat, $1,000. So the section total is $133,000. The next section, capital outlay. There is currently no budgeted amount for capital outlay. So the total operating expenses are $1,276,820.29. Going to page 44, grant expenses. And this is from the detail section that's later in the budget. It is budgeted for $2,452,800. So the total expenses with grants are $3,729,620.29. This would be a good time to just remind everybody that the grants work is that the revenue and the expense are always the same amount. So they net to zero. There's no surplus or deficit associated with grants, but we do need to budget the revenue and the expenses in separate sections.
Thank you so much, Ron. So I'm gonna open up the floor. I just wanted to tell you that your voice carries. As I was walking the hallway to grab something, I could hear the whole entire thing. And so it carries through the building, which is good because I know there's various directors on right here in the area right here, right behind us that are following through both in the office and out here as well. So that was pretty good. Thank you for that. All right. So I'm gonna make it go around once and try to keep it to time. Just as a reminder, it's 10:44. And the City Hall general government part was supposed to be at 10:10. So we are running really behind. Okay, it's up to you guys. I could be here until 1 o'clock in the morning if I choose to, but I'm pretty sure the staff wouldn't want me to do that to them. So try to remember this is work session. Keep your comments tight. And if somebody else has said what you're gonna say, ditto and move on. We don't have to all have voice in every single line item, please. All right, that goes for everybody, including me. All right, so Jerry, you hadn't gone first, so let me go ahead and address you first.
Yep, 2 questions. One, temporary labor, 5412. Just
Yes.
curious what that is.
That's $45,000 that we're trying to bring a temporary HR employee to help the HR director, the new HR director, because we had this number in the year before. We didn't use it because we moved over here and we didn't have the space for it. So once we go back to the city hall, we're gonna have a place, and then that person is gonna come to bring the HR office in compliance. We have so many files and all these issues that
We just have extra work that we need to put into that department, and that's what we need a little bit more help. That's it.
it's only one time.
Perfect. Okay. And then 5701, there's the Potts Hall redevelopment, there's an outlay. And then the grants expense. I was just a little confused. One's an
So-
operating, one's in capital.
Yeah, so in the fiscal 25 budget, we budgeted to use $1 million of fund balance to cover the cost of the Potts Hall redevelopment that wasn't covered by other items, our own grants and
Yep.
all of that. We're expecting that Potts Hall will be completed in this fiscal year.
Yes,
So there will be no expense related to that in fiscal 26.
but the grant expense on the next item. Okay, so
Yeah, it does not include anything from Potts Hall.
got it. Thank you.
So there's a page, remember what page number? So we're gonna go, I know that's what they keep saying, like, so it wasn't another page and they were like, we're gonna go into detail. So what they also done is like for, they have a detail on it in order to like, for people to follow through with it. Because I think that sometimes, our operating budget, it's like, we have a lot of money, which we do utilize, but heavily so on the grants as well.
I thought it was a Potts Hall.
Yeah,
No, it's other items.
Thank you.
The grant detail is on page 16.
Okay, we can cover that when we get to it. Thank you.
thank you, Jared. Danielle?
Yes, I have a question on 5403 professional services audit, the annual audit. Since we're caught up on audits, is there a reason we're seeing such an increase there for this year?
Yes, the reason was because the ARPA requires audit. In a single audit, if you spend more than $750,000 a year. And then we're gonna have SS4A, so I have to be ready for that audit too. So the single audit that we do for the city is different. That's why the cost went up last year. And we had to do the ARPA audit separately and send it to the treasury department. And this year, we're just, projecting because we're gonna close so many ARPA projects in FY 26, Newton Street, Potts Hall. And then we definitely have, because the Potts Hall, we put more than $2 million, from ARPA, 1.8.
Right.
And Newton Street is 1 million. So you spending more than 7. You need to have a single audit.
Thank
That's
you for the explanation, Mr. Cohen.
Sure.
Concise, so do concise, can you make sure that on the explanation line item is also added there, so that we have a little bit clarity? And as a reminder to the community, I usually have asked for this. I think all of us have like done a good job of making sure that's there. Because the idea is like, if in the future somebody reads this budget, they will understand the increase. And I think our team is really good at keeping minutes and notes and everything else, but also gives us an extra leverage on why is it that the increase on. And it helps our memories, because many months later, when we're sitting there questioning the city manager for the same thing, the city manager could be like, I just remember the meeting, but he'll be like, remember the line item, we went ahead and like, the description added, so be there as well. So when we no longer need those audits for those projects, again, SS for all is gonna go, it's a 5-year project, right? So every year, we're gonna need that extra amount to make sure that we audited that. Federal grants require, extra item for us to be able to do. And one of them is make sure that federal money that we receive is accounted for everything, because this is a one-time thing that they did. And we have been outstanding when it comes to all of our grants, reporting the information back. Thank you to the whole team for doing that, from the grant writers to, making sure directors are following through, to finance, obviously to our city manager, make sure that all documents that they're requested on it, including accountability where the money is going to. So that's the reason why. So if you guys go ahead and add that, put both distinctions on it, on the description, it will help, to follow through, and it'll help you guys, because I'm pretty sure, like, whether it's like new council members or later on is asked why, it'll be secure there. Okay, so Valerie, I'm gonna go ahead and go with you. Yes,
Thank you. I think the only thing I'd like to note is that I think it is imperative that we continue to fund the Gateway CDC in their operations. Because I think it's a core role, I think, economic development. I think it also builds so just gonna let them zero right now. And
Look,
Agree with Valerie on the Gateway CDC. But the transformation that's happened there in the last year has been really incredible, and the work they have planned is incredible. And I think it's a really good way to ensure there's economic development that's cohesive across the whole corridor, as Valerie was saying. So really would love to find a way to get that back up as close to 50 as we can. The question I have is on the veterans. Other people asked the same questions I had. Thank you. Chair and Danielle. Veterans long-term living tax credit of 50,000. I see that FY 24 actual was 31, FY 23 actual was 46. I'm assuming that's just a conservative estimate, so we don't run out of money. Is that there?
We don't know what's going to
Right,
come in as
right.
way of requests.
Would it be, if we drop the FY 26 to 45,000, do you think that would be a reasonable cut and think we could cover what we most likely would need?
I probably.
Probably.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And sometimes you have new veterans move in, so you know,
Right.
we just have to account for every.
And the other thing, remember, like we did lower the year, so that means like more people are, more people qualify. And I think that this is one of the things I do want to like review coming up for this upcoming year, because there is a cap when it comes to like 5 years. And I definitely want to see if we could like remove that cap or like expand it beyond 5 years. So that's where I need to make sure there's some money on that budget line item, because especially as we're like planning on making sure that we continue supporting credits that allow for residents to stay like in place in our community. That's like a couple of them that might be able to look into. The other one is like, there's a cap when it comes to how much the assessment is for the home. That might also need to change because the assessments are moving faster than anything else, and it will disqualify quite a few people that are like aging in place, right? So that's something that we might have to look coming up. I know that when I discussed it with Jamie, like, you know, we're looking into maybe not removing the cap, but actually like even putting like a 3%, like, you know, buffer like per year automatically, so that way at least it will adjust to some of it. But that's a discussion I'm gonna have, and I have asked Jamie how to call it to help some with that, because it was still like, you know, stuff that we needed to work and adjust. So I definitely want to be cautious not to drop it too low, because more people might be qualifying. I know the city has done a good job also outreaching and trying to get more people to sign up to this, not just a veteran, but it's the long-standing residents. They moved up for like even less years that they have to live in the city. So that's definitely good to look at. All right, so Danielle, do you had a chance or no?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, perfect. So for me, for line item 5,000, if you guys could add, that's the annual one, the annual bonus, right? You guys can make a note that it's been done annually.
Yeah,
That
this
will-
is
that will
this is
help.
500 per
Yeah,
employee.
But for each employee, basically, so that's like, you know, that's been in the city for the time. So if we could add the word annually, I think it reflects more what it is. It's not a one time, it's a one time a year that is done, but it's been done in several years going back. So I want to make sure that it's on it. For Gateway CC, I will tell you this, that I'm not 100% yet to how much for it to be 50,000. I'll tell you why, because we'll be giving $150,000 in the last year. That's a lot of money. That's a lot more money than any other municipality that's part of it. And this year alone, like Hyattsville has been added to it, and it's by population. So what I'm hoping is that, you know, with Hyattsville being added, right? It also helps, like, you know, when it comes to income that's coming to Gateway CC. But again, based on the information that we sign, it basically says it could be from 0 to like, you know, X amount of money. So I want to make sure that we don't like, you know, put money forward in our end, because $150,000 is a lot. I was even contemplating moving the 50,000 from this year to like next year, because the only reason why we left it there for June, so that's 50,000 hasn't even been given yet. So the difference is if we give it in June or we give it July 1st, it goes from one budget to the other, right? But that's $150,000 that we given upfront. Not even like, you know, because it's ARPA money, we didn't separate it between multiple years, 4 or 5 years, because we have to be able to turn it in by 26 is the year, Mr. Kamal and Ron, right? That we have to be accounted for everything when it comes to it. So I would say that for me, I'm not there yet. And if you want to put a number on it, you can move those 50,000 from like June to July, but that's $150,000 that we'll be giving them in 1 year. That's quite a bit of money, and that's like a big chunk. So Rainier like contribute to the biggest amount to Gateway CC funding than the other 2 cities there, because they're smaller, right? So I'm definitely hoping that, and I don't know, I do not dictate Hyattsville's budget. They make their own decisions, and they could decide from 0 to whatever. But I definitely want to make sure that that is taken in consideration. So I'm not saying zero, but what I want to make sure that is up for this $150,000 that we gave comparison to, and I'll have, the contract, it shows like the numbers for what the other two cities gave, right? But we did give we are going to be giving quite a bit of money by the end of June 30 if those extra $50,000 are given this year. So it's not like we haven't given any, we just give it upfront compared to, what other money cities coming. Go ahead, Valerie.
Yeah, thank you. So just as a point of clarity, Hyattsville, so there's the Gateway CC, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that serves 3 municipalities, Mount Rainier, Brentwood, and North Brentwood. Hyattsville is part of the Gateway Arts District Management Plan, so there's a difference and distinction. Hyattsville was out of the loop in terms of participating in the Gateway Arts District Management. The Prince George's Arts and Humanities Council had been managing the management plan for that, and that's a state designation that gives us access to more resources as a city. So now what's happened is the Gateway CDC has become strong enough to begin managing the Gateway Arts District Management section. So it's a designated area along the and Hyattsville has come back to the table on that. They have not yet come back to the table, or if they were ever at the table for funding the Gateway CDC. So just as a clarification, we are working actively to bring them back into that funding arrangement, but that's not yet there. The reason I think it's important for us to continue funding the Gateway CDC is because Brentwood and North Brentwood are still at the table. We should stick with them for at least 1 more year. That was the expectation when we set it out. I know we gave more to begin with, but I think it's important that we said that we would do it for a 3-year period.
So thank you for that, Valerie, but I want to make sure that we give the money up front. That was the difference that we did compared to what the other ones did. We gave $150,000. So this 50,000 could easily be moved from June 30 to July 1st. If we so, yes, you can. If we so choose to, we could do that, right? But I want to make sure that Mount Rainier is not doing the big bulk, and Hyattsville has already signed a contract, so all 4 cities have signed it already. But I do not know how much money Brentwood and North Brentwood are going to get. Each council is going to decide what it is, so they haven't signed up to what it looks like yet. And I need to have the discussion with those mayors to figure out like whether they're going to fully fund the same amount or it's going to be different or what it looks like. So I'm not saying no to putting some money on it, but remember, this is my opinion. You guys could like, decide whatever you guys choose to, right? We all have an opinion. So I want to make sure I'm respectful of your opinion, same as mine. But I want to make sure that we are ahead, that even if it was a 3-year commitment, we put money up front ahead of time than anybody else and not buy a lot more money. So Mr. Kamali, I think you have the contract that shows the amounts. And if you don't, I'll make it available to you. But mind you, it was by population. So I'm not sure what the other cities are going to decide to do. I'm not saying we shouldn't help them, but I definitely want to make sure that we have put quite a bit of funding. And I just want to make sure that we don't overshoot and that we are, because $50,000 is a lot of cutting going on here that we will have to do to find it. And that will put us at 200,000 in 2 years. That's quite a bit of money. So I just want to make sure that I'm not, at least my opinion is like, I'm not saying zero completely, but let's take in consideration that it was $150,000 that we could have easily used in some other projects in the city. And we decided to put it up front to help them like create the seed, right? But at this point, that's my opinion, and I'll leave it at that. All right, but I have another ask when it comes to strategic planning. I know that we have had conversations. We're going to start working on it. So that's what maybe it's not going to be carried on the next budget. But if it's not completed, we might have to do part on this one, part on the other one. Okay, so potentially.
Actually, about 26, hopefully we can do it in the house, and that's why we can have a member over there. So look, hopefully council member Valerie is gonna work with me and help me to do that. We already talked about this, and that's why we didn't numbers.
Yeah, and if there's funding that needed, like we could always come back and revisit it for a budget amendment. All right, perfect. At least those are mine.
We talked about the gateway real quick, another quick round.
2 minutes. Go ahead.
Great. I'm watching Luke and Valerie being very, very adamant about the gateway, and I have to agree, when I saw it zeroed out, I didn't understand myself either. Well, we have Luke for wanted to zero out the 5505, which is 5,500, and what was it, 5,000 from the veteran tax if we take those two and put that in Gateway, that gives us 10.5.
But please be advised that I just received an email last night that the city of Hyattsville is gonna increase our dispatch cost from 90,000 to 250,000. I do appreciate it. Every council wait until, yes, I received this email yesterday afternoon, and I am shocked because it was 90,000. If you look at my budget, it's 90,000 right now. If I want to go to 250, I'm not gonna be able to balance that budget. So please, just wait, let me work with Ron and see how we can adjust that, because we don't want to cut the services.
Right.
Because the community is waiting for the services. And somehow, and I cannot cut the payroll, so I have to be able to find some money, and I have household. Please be advised. We brought $1 million from the fund balance in FY 25. Household right now, I am short 1.5 to 2 million. And so, and somehow we just want to be cautious. I'm working with mayor, and we're trying to find some resources somehow from the state. In fact, mayor and I were talking about it yesterday, but if we don't get it, we have to bring our saving in, the saving that I kept it for the rainy days. So please, just let's go through this process. And we still have time until May the 6th, or, later, to approve the, budget. And let us process that $250,000. That was the shock last night.
So, thank you, Mr. Kamali, for addressing, since we opened it to second round. Sure.
Yeah, I think, note, I'm also supportive of continued support to Gateway CDC. But again, it's not in isolation. And as we go through their resources that may come in, there are state drop-offs because of what's going on federally right now, may drop off. This, as Hyattsville runs our dispatch for police, folks don't know that's what we're referring to. It's a far level better in service than rely on the county, but so we need to look at the whole big picture and trust what you'll bring back to us as a proposal, balancing revenues and expenses. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so be patient. Again, we will have difference of opinion. We're not voting on anything. We're going through the process. So I, be understanding that we are where we're at, and in the back of my head, I keep thinking, $2 million for pothole. What I don't want to do is drain our rainy fund, because we don't know what to expect in the next, 3 years and like 10 months to come, so we're still too early on it. And if we've done something very good, sure we had a rainy day, that's what basically helped us, along with like heavily advocating at every level for COVID relief and ARPA funding that carry us through. But in previous years, in previous councils, like they had to make hard decisions, which include increasing taxes by a lot when the assessments dropped so low, right? And HURs were cut, right? So HUR is still like right there, and that also means that at streets and sidewalk, that's the money that we use for that. And we have a match that we need to make when it comes to the $9.7 million, that's 20%, it will go through it. Yeah, the highway user revenue. I'm sorry, I said it a couple of times, but HUR, yeah, so HURs that have to do revenue. So when you put gas in the pump, right? Or, some little bit of money like trickles into the budget, but also when your car is registered in Maryland, and some of that money also comes to help for the same hour. The problem that we also have that a lot of people register this car to DC, Virginia, and everywhere else, and that money doesn't come to Maryland, it comes elsewhere. And that means that we don't have the right amount of money coming to our state and to our city, which means that the city has to subsidize. And as you guys can tell, like we have put a lot of effort in our roads and our sidewalks, but it makes it hard. We spent a lot of time with it. All right. Okay.
Let's go.
Next. That's what you said. Now you want to hurry, right? After the whole speech you gave. All right, go ahead. What page number?
49. Administrative services.
Oh, we go to
Oh, we're gonna do public.
What number of page?
64, 65.
So do we have the Director of Public Works here with us? Hello, Ms. Rocio Lantore. Page number? All right, perfect. Let's go a read through and we'll put our comments. Luke,
Yes,
shorter.
I will.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, Public Works, section wages and wage pay. 5,000 regular pay, for $542,561. An employee bonus for $5,000. Like 5,000 are on overtime pay, $41,471.94. So the section total is $589,032.94. Employee benefits and services, line 5,100 FICA, $45,061.02. And 5,101 life insurance expense for $700. Line 5,102 dental insurance expense, $6,441.47. Line 5,103 medical insurance, $186,490.28. Line 5,105 workers' comp insurance, $70,341.65. Line 5,106 unemployment insurance, $1,912.37. And line 5,107 retirement contribution, $66,678.53. So the section total is $377,625.32. The next section is materials and supplies. Line 5,200 office supplies, $25,000. Line 5,205 uniforms for $4,000. 5,207 uniform cleaning expenses for $30,000. Line 5,208 street signs for $6,000. Line 5,209 traffic calming devices, that is $0. And then line 5,210 vehicle fuel and oil for $29,500. So the section total is $94,500. Next section, repairs and maintenance. Line 5,300 vehicle repair and maintenance for $55,000. Line 5,301 equipment repair and maintenance for $5,000. Line 5,560 equipment purchases, including street cams, for $7,000. So the total for the section is
Mr. Kamali?
$67,000.
Yes,
What's going
I
on?
just want to correct something that line item 5560, the street cannons should be taken out. That was in FY 25, which is do the equipment purchases only for 7,000.
So,
I'm sorry, the line includes today, but we are not.
No,
planning
no,
for any
no,
street
we're not
cleaning
putting
purchases.
that.
perfect. So just cross the purchase include traffic.
Only,
All right,
only the
perfect.
notation.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Professional services, line 5,400, professional contract services for $5,000. Line 5,412, temporary labor for $40,000. And then line 5,418, vehicle insurance for $15,000. The section total is $60,000. The next section, other services and charges, team building and appreciation for $1,500. 5507 CDL testing for $1,500. And line 5518 tipping and recycling fees for $90,000. And the section total is $93,000. The next section is community activities. Line 5530 conference convention expense for $2,000. Line 5531 association dues for $200. Line 5542 bike co-op expenses for $4,000. Line 5543 community garden for $4,000. And line 5552 green team expense for $2,600. The section total is $12,800. The next section, infrastructure and facilities maintenance. Line 5230 sidewalk and street repairs for $500,000. And we have a note that this is the this satisfies the 20% match requirement for the Safe Streets for All grant. Line 5600, building repair and maintenance for 22,000. Line 5601, tree maintenance for 85,000. Line 5602, tree purchases, tree replacement fund for 1,500. Line 5603, grounds maintenance for 58,000. Line 5604, pest control for 3,400. Line 5606, equipment rental for 2,500. Line 5611, streetlights and signals for 80,000. Line 5612, streetlights and signal repair for 10,000. And line 5613, heat for 3,500. So the section total is 765,500. Capital outlay, there's no budget for capital outlay. The total operating expenses are $2,059,858.25. There are currently no grant expenses for fiscal 26. All of the grants currently on the books will be completed in fiscal 25. Of course, we're always working on funding units.
Perfect.
So the total expenses with grants are the same as the operating expenses.
Thank you so much. Jared,
Thank you so much again, Sarah and Ron. Quick question on the 5230 sidewalk and street repairs, the high fetch, okay, that's the match for SS4A. And then we are expending some portion of the SS4A federal funds this year. But, and I see that reflected later in the grant expenditures about roughly 1.9 million, but I don't see it here in the expenses with grants.
Right, so that grant is
Yeah.
managed under City Hall,
City Hall.
so
Okay.
its grant expense are
Yeah.
included in the City Hall budget.
Okay,
so do me a favor, make a note that says on it, like a little thing, just a little line that says like, SS for all, like grant managed under City Hall. So that we could follow through, so that when the questions arise, it's like taken care of.
okay, that clarifies it.
It's showing in.
It is
City
reflected
Hall.
in a different
Yes.
line, even though
Yes.
the match,
That's
local,
why
the
we-
non-federal match for it's
that's why
located.
we had it City Hall over 2 million.
Yep, just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify that.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
But that was solved, putting an extra line item, so that way if people are following through, they also know to refer to the, specifically for this, because we need to make sure we keep like distinct records of it, because a lot of money. All right, Danielle?
Yes, I have one question. The, streetlight signal repair 5612. I see that last year was budgeted 3,500. This year it's for 10,000. We expended over 8,000. Can you just clarify the difference in last year and this year?
Yeah, because we have the street lights and signal repair at Chillum Road. And we had to go through the expenses and replace all the light bulbs, and there was some issue with it. We came up with $8,500 cost, and now we're thinking maybe we have to go through another process and just, replace the whole fixture.
The whole fixture?
Yeah, and because it's just, coming, creating a lot of issues for us.
Mr. Kamali, the 2 minutes apply to you as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, okay, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, I was kind of hoping that increase was gonna be to fix like the lights out here. Are these lights out
No,
here?
no,
okay,
no.
Or are these guys in need of?
No,
being
these
replaced?
are the decorative lights that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's under the $80,000 that we have for the street lights,
Okay,
which includes the Pepco building and all 37 decorative lights that we.
thank you for the
Okay.
clarification.
So let's do something, council members, and including myself. Ask your 2 questions and have them answer it, because if not, they're getting the 2 minutes time that he has to respond. Okay? Luke, Valerie.
I had hoped that maybe between 5611 and 5612, maybe there were some like $5,000 we could share, save off the streetlights and signals line item. Is there that possibility, or is that not because we need that money?
we need that money
Okay.
because if you look at FY 24, it was almost $119,000, 120. And so
Okay.
I'm not gonna risk that. Thank you.
Valerie?
Thank you. I think, it's pretty good to me. The only thing I would note is the bike co-op expenses, revenue from bike co-op is 1,500. 2,500.
I'm sorry to bring it down. They're asking for 7,000 and I'm trying to stay with, because they're bringing some revenue for us. And I have a letter from them that they were asking for $7,000 and I'm just trying to give them 4,000 based on the history of the account. So I'd rather keep it and not to cut it because they're not gonna be happy, even for $500.
All right. So for 5518, can we add the word compost? Tipping and recycling fees, can we add the word compost to it? So that way it reflects like, the new, the new, how do you call it, like, the new compost program? That's just it. Okay, good, Mr. Kamali,
Thank you.
that's it.
No, I just,
That's it, just to make sure, how do you call it, we are like, our budget.
No, I
also
know
shows
what
that
you're
we're being
talking-
green, and that's it. All right, that's it for me.
okay.
All right, and I'm not gonna ask for any questions. You guys have your time. All right, thank you so much, Rocio. We appreciate you being here and
Yeah.
you're off the hook. There you go. Thank you so much for all the work and please extend a thank you to your whole entire team.
Very well.
Because they definitely been having a very hard season. Can we know what the next one is?
Next one is code
Administrative
compliance.
services,
Code compliance?
code compliance.
Wrong.
Okay. You guys are going out of order. I'm all confused now.
Here's the new order. So, thank you guys for, I'm gonna try to make the time, all right?
Okay.
So we have, what page is it on?
53.
53, and we have with us Director Ferrufino, who's joining us as part of Director of Code. Go ahead, Ron, the floor is yours.
Okay, first section, wages and leave pay, line 5,000, regular pay, 266,547, and employee bonus for 2,000. Line 5,001, overtime pay for 1,000. So the section total is $269,547. Employee benefits and services, line 5,100, FICA, 20,620.35. Line 5,101, life insurance expense, 350. Line 5,102, dental insurance expense for 3,508 and 16 cents. Line 5,103, medical insurance expense, $101,144.51. Line 5,105, workers' compensation expense for 32,189. And I'll take the opportunity to explain that because I know somebody will ask.
Go ahead.
So as part, we go through a workers' comp audit every year. So Chesapeake looks at our payroll and how people are classified, and they give us an adjustment to the premiums that we paid during the year, and it all happens in the next fiscal year. As part of our latest workers' comp audit, they took a closer look at our code compliance employees who had been classified the same as office employees and said, no, the nature of their duties
Oh,
is
yeah.
much more like public works.
Yep.
So they re-rated those people to public works, and it's a much, much higher
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
workers' comp rate. So that's why the huge increase in the workers' comp expense for code compliance. 5106, unemployment insurance for $2,425.91, and 5107, retirement contribution, $30,512.72. So the total for the section is $190,750.65. Next section, materials and supplies, line 5,200, office supplies, 4,500. Line 5205 for uniforms, 5,000. And line 5210 vehicle fuel and oil for 3,500. So the section totals $13,000. Next section, repairs and maintenance. Line 5300 vehicle repair and maintenance for 2,000. Line 5560 equipment purchase for 3,000. So the total for the section is $5,000. Professional services, line 5400, professional and contract services for 12,000. Line 5411, employee training for 5,000. Line 5412, temporary labor, no budget line for this year. Line 5414, printing and copying for $3,000. And line 5418, vehicle insurance for $3,000. So the section total is $23,000. The next section, other services and charges, team building and appreciation for 400, and that's the section total as well. Next section, community activities, 5530 for conference convention expense for 6,000. 5531 association dues for 2,000. Line 5532 subscriptions and publications for 3,000. And the section total is $11,000. Next and last section, infrastructure and facilities maintenance. Line 5600 building repair and maintenance for 3,000. And line 5609 abatement on property expenses 6,000. So the section total is 9,000. The total expenses are $521,697.65, and there are no grant expenses for code compliance.
All right, perfect. So I'm gonna go around. Valerie?
It's quite shocking.
Like that's the new.
Yeah, when I got the audit results, I was shocked as well.
I think I heard you fell out of the chair when you were in the room. All right, Danielle, Jared, Luke.
Alma, thank you so much for everything. It looks great, guys. Thank you for clarifying that. That was, of course, like what? But yeah, everything else looks good. Thank you so much.
Everything looks good. That was my own question.
Yeah, testament to you of building up this department. I get almost no complaints about code compliance. I used to get them a lot, and that's a testament to how you built up this department and retained staff. Thank you.
Well, thank you as well. And I think not just retain the staff, but the extra training the staff is receiving to be up to the part. And things are changing so rapidly that the fact that you guys are like on track and be able to be skilled on it, it has helped. And like that you have been very quick at answering like any concern that the residents have. Sometimes even ahead before sometimes I get a complaint like, you guys have already addressed and they're like, it's already been done and taken care of. So thank you guys for that. So we're good. Thank you, Alma, for being here, and thank you also obviously for clarifying the insurance. Because I think that was like in the mind of everybody, because that was a gigantic jump.
Thank you, Alma.
I'm glad that they're classified where they need to be. So thank you for that. All right, so moving on to Economic Development Department, 1124. So what page is that on?
57.
Right after. All right, go ahead.
Okay, first section, wages and leave pay. Regular pay of 112,203. One bonus of 500. Section total is $112,703. Next section, employee benefits, line 5100 FICA, $8,621.78. Line 5101 life insurance for 100. On line 5102 dental insurance for $1,020.76. And line 5103 medical insurance expense for $29,235.81. 105 workers' comp for $540.76. Line 5106 unemployment insurance for $358.46. And 5107 retirement contribution, $12,757.98. So the total for the section is $52,635.46. $0.55. Next section, professional services, line 5411, employee training for 1,000. That's the section total as well. Next section, other services and charges, line 5500, rent expense, no budget. Line 5503, team building for $120. Line 5504, economic development expense for Main Street programming for 30. And line 5504, economic development expense for programs, 2,000. So the section total is $32,120. Next section, community activities, line 5530, conference convention expense for 2,000. And line 5531, association dues for 1,000. And the section total is $3,000. There is no capital outlay budgeted for fiscal 26. So the total operating expenses are $201,458.55. Grant expense is $150,000, again detailed in the grant section. And the total expenses with grants of $351,458.55.
Okay, so we're gonna go around the room. Luke, because I've been putting you at the end, I'm sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, all good. Thanks, Ron. No questions.
Jared,
Thanks again for all the hard work you're doing. No questions.
Yeah, believe it or not, I have no questions. Thank you for everything you've done, and the buildings look great, and I'm hearing great compliments.
okay, Valerie,
Thank you. I think my only question pertains to grants. If we've done 150,000 is for commercial district improvement, is that only for 31st Street and Rhode Island Avenue, or does that?
No, for Rhode Island Avenue and Park.
yeah, we work fast and efficiently.
But the only thing that we have to be cautious is when it be exhausted before June. So
Let me take a look at this.
next 3 months.
150,000.
Yeah.
We haven't even set out RFP yet. We have
So
a
we
couple of years, but it's not gonna be exhausted.
Just for next year,
I'm just asking,
Okay.
I'm just trying to understand the process because that's what you and I talked, and the RFP is gonna be out soon. It's gonna be a copy of the 34th Street, and I think, we should be able to do it, but if it's gonna go to FY 26, fine.
so I would say, based on that, if there's adjustment that needs to be made, we'll make it. If by any chances the project is completed before the end of like
That's fine.
this fiscal year,
Oh.
that's fine, because I know you move very fast, so I'm very fast and efficiently, thank you for that. But if it's like exhausted, we'll come back and review, we'll put a pin on it. So if it's like expend before June 30, then we'll make the change on the budget to reflect that is gonna be done.
The
before.
reason
If not,
I'm saying that, Mayor, we just spent $150,000 on 34th Street in 2 phases, and it's almost finished, right?
yeah, you move, thank you for all the work that you do. It's very, it has completely changed our business district. Between, and heavily dependent on grants as well, so, money well invested, so thank you for that as well. I'll say your whole entire team, but you are your whole entire team. So, but I think that, building relationships across the, it definitely helps. Thank you so much for that. All right, that's it, Ross. You're done.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys as well for helping us moving along. We have our police department right now.
Can I take a short bio break?
Yeah.
What? No, I'm just kidding. All right, so can we take a 5-minute break, all of us? Because we are moving fast along. Okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you.
So, thank you so much. We are back from, a small break, and we're moving along the line. If you guys are following us, we are in the police, department. We have with us in the table Chief Alston, chief of our police department, and we are in page 61 of the budget. All right, go ahead, Ron. It's gonna, if you have just joined us, Ron Wilson, our consultant for finance and everything that has to do with this, is here. He's doing a read through of everything. Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So the first section, wages and leave pay, line 5,000 regular
Yes, sir.
pay for $1,356,065.10. And there is a footnote here. This number includes a COLA for everybody in the department, plus in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement, the officers covered by that agreement also receive a 2% merit increase. Line 5,000 employee bonus for 11,500. Line 5,001 overtime pay, 92,000. Line 5,002 court pay for 10,000. Line 5,003 shift differential for $456,124.90. And line 5,004 officer field training for 3,600. So the second total is $1,929,280. Employee benefits and services, line 5,100 FICA expense for $147,590.69. Line 5,101 life insurance expense for 2,000. Line 5,102 dental insurance expense for 15,558.31. Line 5,103 medical insurance for $453,477.85. Line 5,105 workers' compensation insurance for $336,847.86. Line 5,106 unemployment insurance for $12,635.94. And line 5,107 retirement plan contribution for $218,395.63. So the total for the section is $1,186,506.27. Materials and supplies. Line 5,200 office supplies for 6,000. Line 5,202 computer equipment and supplies for 20,000. Line 5,204 police supplies and equipment for 23,000. Line 5,205 uniforms for 20,000. Line 5,206 firearms supplies for 9,000. Line 5,207 uniform cleaning expenses for $6,700. And line 5,210 vehicle fuel and oil for $63,000. The section total is $147,700. The next section is repairs and maintenance. Line 5,300 vehicle repair and maintenance for $35,000. Line 5,301 equipment repairs and maintenance for $24,000. Line 5,303 radio maintenance for $300. Line 5,304 MRBA security camera maintenance for $4,000. And line 5,560 equipment purchase, currently zero budget. So the section total is $63,300. Professional services, line 5,404 dispatch services, currently at 90, although as we just heard from Mr. Kamali, that's probably going up. Line 5,407 computer software expenses for 20,000. Line 5,410 recruitment and testing, 7,800. Line 5,411 employee training for 20,000. Line 5,415 police liability insurance for 30,000. Line 5418 vehicle insurance for 25,000. So the total for the section is 192,800. Other services and charges, line 5503 team building and appreciation for 3,000. Line 5599 miscellaneous expense for 2,000. The section total is 5,000. Community activities, line 5514 public safety night, 6,000. Line 5515 police explorer program, 6,000. Line 5516 community outreach, national night out, social services, 10,000. Line 5530 conference and convention expense for 3,000. Line 5531 association dues for 1,000. And the section total is 26,000. The next section is infrastructure and facilities maintenance. Line 5600 building repair and maintenance for 10,700. Line 5610 electricity for 15,000. The section total is 25,700. Capital outlay, line 5705 vehicle purchase for 195,000. And that's the section total. The total operating expenses are $3,771,296.27. We also have $94,000 in the budget for grant expense. And the total expenses with grants, $3,865,296.27.
Thank you so much, Ron. So I'm gonna go around the room. Danielle?
Yes, thank you. My question, I have, the dispatch, we'll talk about that, I'm going to do that, but, my question is the uniforms, there's the increase. I think ARPA covered some of the uniforms in the past, if I'm not mistaken. Is this just a differential now that we're paying for it outside of ARPA money, or am I misunderstanding?
No, we have 2 new police officers that are gonna join the team. They are in the police academy and they're graduating in June, right, Chief?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And also we're looking at, possibly another 2 as we look at, that are in our current, staffing, once we do our other promotions and find out. And because we have some people that may be leaving as well.
That's something that we're gonna look at it later. Right now, it's not included in this budget. Right now, we have 23 counts for the police department. And we will cross that bridge when we get to it. We can do the budget amendment. We can do so many things after.
Still taking in the same consideration of the 23. I was just, referring to the people who may be leaving.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, I know.
So,
I
and,
think
and
you
just
did
to
that,
make,
but-
just to make sure to address it, our staff does get uniforms, PD, public works, they do get uniforms. I know Code also gets uniform and stuff. So that's part of the things that they're speaking about. Okay,
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate, thank you, Mr. Kamali.
go ahead, Mr. Kamali.
And also increase in the service, like, for cleaning, always, or purchasing, the price has gone up. Have to consider all those too.
Services has gone up, right? It's definitely a hard year.
Okay.
All right, Jared, Luke and Valerie.
Just quick, 5705 vehicle purchase, I'm assuming that's just the cycling out of part of the fleet.
Yeah, it's part of
The
our ongoing
yearly.
plan to replace 3 vehicles every year.
Okay, and then,
Multi-
oh, perfect. 5404, that is the one item that's probably not correct, right? It's 90,000, it should be 200.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
Okay, we found out last night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
we just found out
Okay.
A while ago.
yesterday.
Okay,
And Chief and I are gonna talk about this and see how. we can
Perfect.
approach it.
okay. Luke, Valerie,
The shift differential going up? Is that just the cost of doing business?
So, yeah, this one's a little funky, right? So when it says shift differential, it's
Mhm.
actually the entire cost of a salary when somebody works that shift.
Right.
Differential,
Yeah.
not just.
like
the
nights
additional-
or.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that is the normal increase with the COLA and
Gotcha.
the 2% merit.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And for the capital vehicles, are we purchasing hybrids now or electrics? Or are we still purchasing gas?
We're still purchasing gas. Chief has been trying to get the hybrid. Unfortunately, the back orders is causing a lot of troubles. And electrical, forget about it for now.
It's not great.
We've been trying to get the hybrid.
Okay.
Unfortunately, right now, for the FY 25, we have 3 cars that we have purchased it. We're gonna get it 4 months from now.
Okay.
So, and we cannot really rely on, timing. So that's why we're putting 195, hopefully maybe next year, by the time we're gone, if there is any, solution to get hybrid, we go for the hybrid. Our goal is to go there. Go ahead, Chief.
Just to let you know, we have purchased a few hybrids that are in the fleet currently.
Yep.
So, before they had that massive shortage on that lithium ion battery, worldwide shortage, we were able to get them. They actually canceled our last order.
Yeah.
So, yeah, V6,
Okay.
which is, called the, Eco Boost.
Yeah.
Better.
That's my list.
So they used to be 8, just to be clarified, so we have made some like changes, go from 8 to 6 at least, and get those hybrid, but the waiting list for that one, even before they cancel it, it was over a year. And the vehicles for rotate, I mean,
Got
we have done our best to try to accommodate as we go, so at least we went from 8 to 6, and that has helped some, but
And also,
it's been a challenge.
also with the new administration, we don't know.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, so those grants are gonna be out the door. Valerie?
Thank you. I would note that just overall, the FY, approved budget for FY 25, that things went up by a little bit. So it's mostly in wages and pay, and the rest of us is the same still. So which I think we up by $166. The only other question, is the MRBA security cameras maintenance.
Yes.
MRBA is being solved.
Chief, please. That's at the intersection of Bunker.
We're gonna change the name to like maybe call it like business security cameras,
Yeah, we can-
because at the end of the day,
District.
the city was paying for this. It wasn't a separate bill that we were sending the businesses, so
No,
I think that is not reflective of, because it sounds like the business were paying for it and the city was covering the fee.
Thank you. That's good.
Thank you. All right, so I do have an ask. And it has a blue sticky pad on it, so it's gonna follow through, but I love the fact that we have put through our departments the various community stuff that we do, and I think that should still be there. But I'm asking for the staff to give me a 1-pager that has the various community money that we put out, because it'll be represented, because I think people don't realize that we do, when it comes to the explorers, when it comes to the community outreach, right? All that is money that goes back to like, the events that we have with the community. So we'll showcase not on the other page that, we were talking about, Luke, that is coming up when it comes to the events and stuff, but there's so many more events that we do with everything else, right? So if we could just do a 1-pager to just have it as part of the budget, so that way it shows, because one of the things that I've been heavily working, and Mr. Kamali, this because we've had conversations, and this is the reason why the budget is the way it is. When it comes to participatory budget, when it allows, residents to not just have feedback on the different things. That's the reason why we have so many committees that are funded, right? But at the same time, right, that money is going back into the community in different ways. So that way it will reflect that, yes, the police department has things that do for staff, but they also put like, money forward. And if you got to the police department events, they're highly, lack of a better word, committee member involvement in every single way. And all the services are provided for the community. So I want to make sure, so showcases that like, although there's money here for on it, but we're also putting money out to the community to be able to have this event, regardless of like, community members have funding or not. In order that it also showcase like, one, we have the committees that are helping with putting like budget out and stuff like that. But as part of the city's like focus, has also been like putting money out. And I know we do quite a bit of like credits back, historical credits, like, low income veterans, right? That also go out, that people don't realize that people do submit information, and on the line item for the taxes for the city, we cut a check back to them. So that money is not accounted. So I don't want people to think that we have 1,000 homes and every single one pays the same exact thing. It's not the case. Quite a bit of money goes out as well to to our community. So if we could have that one pager, definitely will help to showcase that. Keep it in the departments as there are right now, but just a one pager to be added at the end to be like, community like events and stuff like that, because it'll be even more reflective of everything else we're doing, because we are putting a lot of money on it. That goes back to the same conversation we were having earlier.
Okay,
Okay,
will do.
thank you. All right, Valerie, you had a turn out that. Okay, we're good?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chief. And please thank you to the whole entire team.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, perfect. So that puts us in administrative services. So we have our Director, Mr. Service, Melissa Sam with us at the table, who's also our clerk. And that is page is that it?
So on page 47, 49, I'm sorry.
For the tables.
No, I start with 46 and the
And make your way through it.
table is on 49.
Yeah, and this is by request of our director, because she is here the whole day with us since like before 8 o'clock in the morning. So since she's here, she felt like she'll be the last department. So thank you, Melly, for being understanding and putting yourself right here. So go ahead. For sure.
Last but not least.
Exactly.
All right,
We're all the extra events are going through. Go on.
administrative services, so the section wages and leave pay, line 5,000 regular pay, 358,619, and employee bonus for 2,500, 5,001 overtime pay per 1,000. The section total is $362,119. Employee benefits and services, line 5,100 FICA, $27,702.10. 5,101 life insurance for 400. 5,102 dental insurance, $3,954.06. 5,103 medical insurance for $114,581.58. 5,105 workers' comp, $1,737.48. 5,106 unemployment insurance, $3,196.02. 5,107 retirement contribution, $40,991.87. The section total is $192,563.11. The next section, repairs and maintenance, line 5560, equipment purchase for 4,000. And that is also the section total. Professional services, line 5411, employee training for 5,000. And line 5421, webmaster services for $16,658.21. The section total is $21,658.21. The section other services and charges, 5503 team building for 4,000. Line 5506 travel for $250. Line 5509 message production for $26,400. Line 5517 iNet services for 11,000. And line 5527 marketing and outreach for 10,000. The section total is $51,650. The next section is community activities. Line 5530 conference and convention expense for 6,000. Line 5531 association dues for 1,000. Line 5532 subscriptions and publications for 12,500. Line 5534 Juneteenth, Black History Month, and Afro-Caribbean Festival for 5,000. Line 5540 Mount Rainier Day expenses for 20,000. Line 5541 Winter Festival for 3,500. Line 5544 Halloween event for 3,000. Line 5545 scholarship program for 7,000. Line 5546 programming for 1,500. Line 5547 CERT team, 3,000. Line 5548 immigration outreach for 1,000. Line 5549 veterans celebration for 2,000. Line 5550 teacher appreciation for 1,000. Line 5551 egg hunt event for 4,500. Line 5553 recreation program for 9,000. Line 5554 recreation grant for 7,500. Line 5555 arts commission for 5,000. Line 5556 Latino heritage, 5,000. Line 5557 Mount Rainier Youth Council for 2,500. Line 5648 Police Advisory Board for 3,000. And 5649 Rent Stabilization Board for 100. The total community activities are 103,500. And the total expenses for administrative services are $735,490.32.
Right, perfect. We'll go around the room. Val?
Thank you. Other community activities, so, but a lot of good programs. I think, my only remarks here are the 7,000 for the scholarship program is because it's no longer funded by ARPA.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, and then, the police advisory board going from 500 to 3,000. And
That's something that I'll leave it up to the council based on their request. They need 3,000, but I think it should be.
I have a proposal for that money.
and then my last thing is senior programming for funding. First, program.
100%. No, it's nothing, but we will. It has been allocated in other stuff, but yeah.
My question was the Arts Commission. It's hard to do anything with 5,000. I know last year we made that concession with like a promise that we would get funding through a budget amendment later in the year, which I appreciated. I will no longer be on the council, so I don't know what kind of, so I'm just wondering if we could increase that line item to 10,000. I know we have the recreation program and grants totals 16,500, and they do a lot of great work, but I think to do a good art project, you need at least 10,000 in there, if not more. So
So to clarify, you're asking for
5,000.
5,000 more.
Yeah.
I don't want it to. Okay.
The reason that I just put 5,000 because they did not send us, even though we
Yeah.
reach out to them so many times, and I talked to John last week.
Okay.
And he said that he didn't know the procedure. We can put 5,000, and then in the future, see how.
See how they go. Okay.
People work with them when it comes to the procedure,
Okay.
really, so that way they're.
I already talked to him.
But we're trying to, but stay on the liaison, he goes to like
Yeah.
support you, so that way he can get through it. Our Arts Commission is not this and not this.
Well, no, I'm looking for the future.
Yeah, so I think that we need to make sure, so something that we have done very good, and Mr. Kamali, thank you for that, is he sent information out. And, we're holding the different committees that, accountable for making sure they submit it, so that way are being participating in the budget process for committees to be able to submit. Are they gonna get everything they ask for? Most likely no, because of quite a few of them are asking for a lot of money than we can give them, right? But if we work through the process, that's basically what it is. Those that at least follow the process, it's easier for the city manager to figure out what it looks like. And also if they already have dates or events, projections and stuff like that, but applying here's money that we need might not fly anymore. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
This looks good. We are spending quite a bit on the activities, which I'm very supportive of. I think, that kind of was kind of one reason as we were talking about the set aside council, historically council set aside, I think it kind of makes sense to kind of consolidate So, these are all very valuable activities for our community together. And so forth. One note I know, and again, I'm, as Luke no longer going to be on council, the police advisory board, the purview of that continues to be pretty limited. And part of that is because after we originally put this together, the state basically the county has a function that basically does everything that the local advisory board continues to do. I don't know that there's, in the past, there's really been a big budgetary need. And I notice it's back up at 3K. So, I mean, if there is an actual need relative to everything that we're doing, then that's one thing. But I think a funding level that reflects previous years probably makes no sense.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let Danielle speak, and then I have a proposal to put on the table. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think on the event thing, I mean, the rule of negotiation has always been high and acceptable. So when I was on recreation, we always asked for more and accepted less. So you always look at things like that, especially when you don't have specific plans that you have for purchases or events or things like that. I see numbers coming down across the board. My question is the rent stabilization. Not Rainier Youth Council, do we actually have an active youth council? Do we actually have a board and an active?
Working on it.
Okay, all right, because I saw that there was a budget last year, but nothing happened.
No, we didn't use anything last year, but Mayor and I seriously working on it. That's why we're projecting. If we don't use that money is coming.
Maybe, or for the Arts Council, maybe the Arts Commission, if you don't use it.
No. What I'm saying that some of these numbers, we don't have to spend it. It depends.
Oh, no, I'm trying to help Luke find money for the Arts Commission because I'm a supporter of that.
Good with perhaps.
Okay. So,
Lost our vote, so.
goodbye, Luke. Goodbye, Luke.
Thank
I'll be
you.
live.
Thank you.
Come to Monday, Luke, okay? Monday, 4 p.m. How do you call it? Okay, thank you, guys. I will say to you that sometimes things are challenged and takes a work. Sometimes the training happens, it might not reflect the budget because some of the training that we have done is like, has been in kind, right? But I'm gonna be very clear on the budget like I have in every single year. Is up to you. You don't have to spend every single line item on it. There's a reason why on it. So over negotiating, trust me, it's not gonna help you. Because if we need money, this whole budget is like drawn on the clouds of hopes and dreams of past, information that, as we can see with the new government, nothing's holding, right? So we could be like, this is exactly what we want, but I would say, for the committees, my advice to them is like, don't over negotiate, be honest in what it is so that we could aim at what could happen, because if not, it's like, it's gonna cut dramatically, right? In saying that, for police advisory board, I don't think $3,000 because of the various cuts that are needed. And right now we do have the police advisory board is statewide, right? They're the ones that do a lot of the work. So we originally thought like our police advisory board was gonna need, right? So I am positioning to leave it where it was at 500 and move $2,000 of that into scholarships, which will give us like a little more money. Do remember that we were giving seven scholarships for $3,000. That was $21,000, and now it's dropped out to $7,000. So that is like definitely a big drop of what we were providing. And I understand that ARPA was able to facilitate. So my suggestion is heavily move it to line item, move $2,000 from line item 5648 into line item 5545, which is the scholarships, will give us a little more money to give the students, because the reality is it's like the financial help that people are getting with schools is definitely going to change with the announcements of the education department being dismantled. So, and what heavily carried through, when we were, through COVID, was the fact that we were able to finance scholarships for the kids. So they didn't have to decide whether they needed to pay rent or support their families or go to school. that is the big reality of what was happening, and the big reality was gonna be happening now, especially with some of our students being targeted, heavily. So that's that. And the other one for line item, the other $500 will be for line item 5548. When it comes to immigration outreach programs, and move another $500. So that's the leaves the police advisor 500, if anything. I know in the past, if needed, like, chief has reached out for like grants. So that has substituted in case they needed something. So I don't think the city will have a need on it. But even with that, it was like very limited and constrained, once again, because the police department does so many events that they don't have to go, their events are so well attended that the police department does not charge our advisory board, obviously, or any of our committees to set up a table and provide information and be out there with the things that they need. But the scope is very, very, very limited, to the point that people have also questions like, why do we have it if it's like the big use of what it used to be? It's no longer the case. So that is my proposal. But I would say, I definitely, if you could find money in the budget to get us to 21, I'll be happier, right? But I understand there's like budget constraint, but put it in the wish list, right? Add it to the wish list, Luke, to
For
get us,
immigration outreach
for scholarships.
for 2,500 more.
For no, so if we move the 2,000 from the PD to that will give us 9,000. So 9,000 minus
But how
21.
much more for the scholarship program? Because we're not like moving A to B. We got a lot of.
So from 7,000 to 21,000. So whatever the difference that is, they're mathematicians. So it's like what,
14,000.
14,000. But I'm saying just put it there, right? If potentially we could find it, fine. But if not, on it, my suggestion will be like definitely to move for the police advisory board, in order for it to still stay in community activity, so we don't cut down too much that budget line item, that bracket. But at least we're able to potentially subsidize one more scholarship, because $1,000 might not get you too far in the way it is, but at least will help ideally for you to spread it through one semester, at least like the books that you don't have to buy. Okay, but remember, this is like a wish list, right?
Can I give you another bad news?
Tell us the news. I'd rather you tell us, what my motto is with you. Tell me up front so I could manage it better. Yeah.
Place it for 16,000.
Place what?
The
Place the
roof.
Sure. Yeah. And I am right now, because we don't really have to people, we really talk about this. And we said maybe we'll wait until we go through fiscal 26. Without being just, challenging the loan and see how, because we don't have anything in FY 25. We look at the building maintenance for each department. So I just want to raise the alarm, please.
I appreciate that.
There are some hidden costs that it happens. Chief knows that we got rain and the entire building is, and we want to put the solar panels on it. And the company that we brought in, they refused to do that. And they said that the roof has to be stable in order as a place. So I have right now the contract that I'm going to look at it and hopefully just postpone it for this fiscal year, FY 26.
But it's pending whether or not it could have another rain, and the rains have been coming
Well, I have
a lot.
Yeah,
Rain and
see
snow.
how we can, proceed. We have the dispatch. Another issue that is bothering me, to be honest with you, Ron and I have so much challenge to balance this budget. And then we have the big issue behind me, the outside.
So I would say, Mr. Kamali, my motto with you has always been, tell me, I don't care how bad the news is, let me know ahead of time, because I could figure out what to do. And I think that goes for the rest of the council, right? So at this point, we're just putting numbers on a paper, nothing solid. Remember, we're just having the conversation, but there is priorities among priorities, and having our staff making sure, and making sure that a staff has a building where they could be safe is definitely a priority. So I would say, you guys will figure out what to do. I think you guys, I don't want you guys to think I'm saying anything other than that, right? But we'll have a document, and our decisions are going to be made across the whole entire budget when it comes to justify some of the things that are are needed. And obviously, we need to make a decision when it comes to dispatch as well, in order to best provide the information that you guys need to be able to balance this budget. So I just want to make sure to know that it's being in the paper, but we're flexible, and the end goal of all of us, every single one of us, is to balance the budget at the end of the day. So make sure that I want to make sure you know that you have our support, and that's what you're hearing.
No, yeah, that's all. Can I respond to this?
That's right.
So we put this budget together.
Yeah.
And then we got the newspaper book that needs to
Yeah.
be replaced. I got yesterday an email from Chief that I have to put another 250. Today is a budget discussion, so I have to discuss my situation, how I'm gonna be able to manage this budget. So please, I do appreciate you guys that if there were anything before, like if I had this dispatch information,
100%.
I would have incorporated in this, the rule, the same thing. So there are, every morning, I just, open my email with a lot of, fear that, oh my God, I hope everything is okay.
I will say to you, Mr. Kamali, that 100%. So I was answering your question when you asked me, do you want me to tell you? And I said, yes. Answer to that answer is always yes. I always I'm not a big, don't tell me. I'm very much in tell me. But we understand, and we have made it also clear that this is things that came in within the last few hours. And obviously you guys are not gonna be trying to redo this within a few hours. You guys are responsible. You're giving us what you have. We are gonna project, again, this is our big conversation, but there's various conversations that are had in this budget. So we do appreciate you giving us the feedback, so that way as we go along, we think about what is possible and what is not. So thank you for that. I think I went around everywhere, right? All right, perfect. So Melly, thank you so much, and please extend your thank you to your whole entire team as well for all the work that is being done, okay?
Okay, so we have a couple of other things to cover.
No, we have the item,
Yeah. Oof, sorry.
Yeah. So,
What pages is under, or is it just
so page 72, debt service contingency and
Okay.
reserve.
All right,
Other services and charges, the line 5598 contingency currently is $103,623.77. So this might or might not flex with the other issues that we have to address. Debt service, line 5830. That's the principal on the Potsol bond, $186,626.69. And line 5835, interest on the Potsol bond, $49,468.53. So our total debt service is $236,095.22. So the total expenses for this department, if you want to call it, $339,718.99. Okay.
all right.
Any questions or discussion?
I'll go around to see if any of them have a question.
Okay.
Jared,
Page
Page 70.
page 72, and it's it's 3 items, but if not, you want me to go to Valerie, Danielle, go ahead, then Valerie.
The contingency, can you explain that one more time for me, please? The difference, the 640, I know there's a logical reason, it probably has something to do with ARPA, but can you explain it for me and those that are watching?
I don't know if I understand.
The difference,
She wants to know why
difference
the
from the
increase.
proposed last year, it was a 647% increase from 13,000 to 103,000.
So the way that we calculate the contingency is we go through all of our revenue and all of our expense. And if there's room, then we put a contingency item in the budget. Now, we always attempt to find contingency. The fiscal 25 number is the modified budget. That contingency was significantly larger when we adopted the budget last spring. It has since been used for some items that came up during the year. That's why it's so low now. And that's why the increase looks so large. Okay. And we would anticipate that with the budget that we establish now for fiscal 26, that will get modified, redirected to other areas that unforeseen areas that pop up. So that's why it looks so large right now.
I appreciate the clarification because there are people watching who are like, what's this huge number? So I
Yeah.
just want them to be able to understand as well. Thank you.
Valerie?
Thank you. And the 103,000 that's already been put into the general fund expense. But it could be used for other things.
Unforeseen situation.
Like, or.
Yeah, yeah. Just right now, if I go back and put that,
So that's gonna all be those, yeah.
So for the public, the question was asked, so that when the public could speak, we're waiting until this to be done and then we'll open it up. So if you guys remember correctly, if you guys were here when we read the agenda, item number 4 is public comment. So we have not been, we're finalizing the read through of the budget, and item number 4 is the public comment. So for those that are listening, have asked when can they speak? The public comment version will be honest. So it's wrapping up. We're wrapping up whatever we have right here, and then we'll go through it. The other thing, Luke, go ahead. I haven't. Want to make sure you have a turn.
Yeah.
before I take the
I,
last one.
are we comfortable with the contingency at a lower level? Like, would we be, like, would we, so I'm thinking of the roof replacement and solar panels costs. That sounds like something in the past we would have tapped into contingency for. Like if air conditioner at City Hall fails, we lead into that. So if we have, let's imagine the contingency is at 100,000 for 3,623, whatever. You lower it by 65,000, that would give you the money for the roof replacement solar panels, leaving a contingency of 35,000, which seems reasonable in light of what the FY24 actual was, which was the latest high. I'm just wondering thoughts on that. That would at least get us through.
Yeah, the other part of the question that you guys also have to remember as you're looking for Ron is that because we had ARPA and it wasn't money not allocated, the contingency was low, because we always could go to ARPA and or either readjust the money that we had approved or approve money for something else. That's the reason why everybody feels so comfortable being so low.
Yeah.
But 13,000, let's say an example, if we had left it at 13,000 in this year, I think you're thinking 30, which is good. There's very little we could buy with $10,000 in modern time. I don't even think we could pay for one event for that.
We started the fiscal year 25 with about a $45,000 contingency. So the difference between that and what currently sits at is what we've used so far. And Mayor is right. We did have some flexibility with the ARPA. I mean, to be honest, just from a fiscal prudence standpoint, I'd like to see 2% of operating expenses, which would be closer to $180,000 in there. It's just, we can't get there right now. We're at just a little over 1%. And 1% can pop up in a heartbeat, just as we've seen with, I mean, the increase in the dispatch services is almost 2% of the operating budget.
$160,000.
So that's why we're hesitant to start here with a really low contingency. It doesn't give us much flexibility at all.
Okay, so did everybody we went around once, so
I had one other question.
go ahead.
We into our credit acting creditors, what would be the cost of increasing the line of credit that we might have? That
No, not yet, but
The conversation is coming.
thinking, see what are the options we have right now. But we are almost at the end of the project in the console. So we put all the change orders together and the final cost and see how much is gonna be. And that's why I'm stretching it out. And so we get involved in this, where we definitely have to look into and see what are the options we have before we go and touch our,
You know,
So
so
what Luke is asking, like, if you guys will have the conversation to figure out the numbers on it. So at least we know like what potentially could be, so that way if we need to budget for some changes later on, to best support you guys. But
Yeah, keep in mind that if you go to the bank
Yeah.
and borrow money for a household, then you're putting a multi-year commitment into your operating.
Right,
budget.
right.
So,
And
you
with the
have to
higher.
balance those things out.
This is the interest is not like the time we got the 2 million. It was only 3.4, now jumping about 6-7% at least.
all right, so but I do want you guys to be aware that we're continuing like and myself, obviously working with the team here. We are working on other alternatives to try to bring more money this year for Patal in order to reduce as much as possible that we might need to utilize. And as you guys recall correctly, quite a few of the project has been like, we have been very smart and strategic on putting money from us, but also looking at other places to bring money on it. But that's the reason why when I started the conversation with the budgets, like we need to be very aware that there's bills that we need to cover, and we need to be very conservative with the budget, because 7% is not 2%. And the way the market is going right now, I don't know how long those 7% is gonna hold. It might be like here and done it. Okay, so you guys have officially heard the whole entire budget, department by department read. So at least we know that every member of the city staff council has done it together at least once. When it comes to the procedure, we are going to be revisiting as we are adjusting and more information is coming in, because we have a couple of items that we still need to figure out how they're going to be fit into the budget. And then the idea is to try to, if you see at the budget, there is the schedule on it, and it tells you when are the next meeting dates. So that is listed, that was approved back in October 29. So the next one is, Mr. Kamali, you said Tuesday, April 1st?
Fourth.
Or first.
First, I'm sorry.
April. I'm reading from the schedule, and my city clerk is looking at me like I got this. But it's April 1st. That is the Tuesday. That is the next discussion that is coming up. So the idea, obviously, is to get it approved closer to the April 15 day, if not if needed by by May 6th. But we have to be conscious as well that there's legislation moving forward for the next year. That'll be for the 15th of May. I think that's more or less for the negotiated 15 to 20. The budget needs to be approved. The tax rate needs to be approved in order for us to submit it. So that's a change that we need to adjust. The good thing is that we started the project very early on. We started in October. Some people start in January, but because we started the project on it on October 1st, when it comes to everything else, it gives us a lot of leeway. So thank you to the team for making sure that they're moving on starting the budget. They moved it to start on October 1st. When it comes to the first reading resolution, all of that hackles up, because if we do not meet our standards, we get ourselves in situations in trouble. All right. So community members, okay, honey. Let me see. Let me go to this beautiful agenda. All right. So I am closing officially item number 3, which was the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget review. And we are moving on to item number 4, which is the public comment. All right. So if you wish to speak, we read the whole entire thing. But just to remind you guys have about 3 minutes to speak. If you are addressing a specific line item, let us know what the line item is. So that way we could listen to what you have to say. If it's just a public, if it's just a statement, then it's a statement, regarding the overall budget. All right. So put your name, last name, block and street number as a sample. Your first, Karush Kamali, and he lives in 4300 block of 34th Street as an example, right? You see as an example if you resident. So go ahead and put it on the chat, and we'll call, as we see it coming. In the meantime, Jared with a D, is there any comments on Facebook? Or Melly? So there's no comments on Facebook. The only comments I see here is when do residents get to speak? All right, so Nina, since you're up in line, we're gonna open the mic to you. So Nina Young, 2000 block of Upshur. Go ahead, the mic's in you. You have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the work of the council and also for the work of the city administrator and his assistant to do the budget. When I look at what the actuals have been over the years compared to the budget, there seems to be a lot of padding in there. And this is tough times. And I would suggest that you go back and compare actuals and look for savings on each line item, because there is a lot of budgeting, especially in the code enforcement budget, which has increased significantly. And I actually disagree that code enforcement has improved. There's still a lot of selective code enforcement going on in our town. Please, Mayor.
I understand
There's
that.
There's also conferences and such on every line item. And when I work for the federal government, the first thing, and nonprofits, the first thing that gets cut is travel. And so you should probably look at how much padding there is in your conferences and travel. And then finally, the last part is scholarships. I think I don't, particularly as a person on a fixed income, want to see my tax dollars going to scholarships. That's just my personal view. I think there's too many things that need to be done in the town in terms of repairs and responsiveness to residents' needs that should go on, that shouldn't go to paying for scholarships for our residents. If we're going to see an increase up to $200,000 for our dispatch, we need to figure out where we're taking money from the various line items to put it there to support our police, which is what I would like to see our tax dollars going for versus scholarships to students. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. And just a reminder from the public, and I think I might have to read the script, when it comes to complaints regarding staff, please address them to the city manager. This is not the place to do it. So I'll go ahead and read the script again to make sure that is clear. So that way this, if you have concern about like one of the departments, address it to the city manager. Okay, so the script is very clear. It says, when speaking, please maintain a cordial tone and provide and avoid personal attacks. If you wish to lodge a complaint about the performance or conduct of a city employee, and this will address departments, please bring it to the concerns of the city manager. I just want to make sure that we're respectful of that. And for those that were not watching when it came to the code department, the hike that we are having is because their work compensation, workers' comp was readjusted to what they actually do. They were actually categorized originally as office workers. That means that they don't leave the office. And, when workers' comp insurance came, it had to be changed into more of a public work because they do go out in the public into buildings and so on. So that was the big increase in that line item. That question definitely was addressed by every member of the council, and it was answered because we were definitely surprised by the big jump of increase. So I want to make sure that that's also clear when it comes to it. And the budget for this year is sort of reflecting a reduction compared to previous budgets. That doesn't mean it cannot be cut anymore, but be aware that the largest amount of our budget is salaries. And so there's only so much we can do, especially because the reality is like cost of living, and they're able to maintain, staff continues to increase. And if we don't have compatible rates, we will spend more money trying to find somebody for that position. And that also lets, why is it that some of the positions have been very hard to fill, because we are a small city. And if you compare us with prices with DC or even Highfield or even Baltimore, our budget compares nowhere near to what those cities are. And that's the cities that we usually have to compete with when it comes to being able to get staff in our cities. Mr. Kamali, you were going to add something to it?
No, you just mentioned everything, and I appreciate that. The only thing, if you look at the code compliance, the increase between FY 25 and 26, it's only the workman's comp, and that makes it, difference, and plus the 5% increase in the salary. So
Yeah.
We are not increasing anything in that department, and but I do appreciate the comments.
Yeah, no, thank you for the comments. The other thing to address is like our staff needs to go to training to be up to date with the latest information. And when they go to the conferences, I'll tell you that That includes for us, that's when we get our bulk of our training. Because if we do separate trainings, it will take a little longer for us to be able to do it. But let's say PD has a lot of training they need to do. That's mandatory for them to be police officers. If they fail to take the training, we will not have police officers on it. Code is the same thing and so on. All right, so
May I just make one?
go ahead.
comment? Mr. Kamali, the line item that says travel, that's basically the per diem that we get for the
Exactly.
cover. Can we redefine that from travel to per diem so that it's more clear and reflective? Or put travel / per diem, that way the community knows what it is, it's paying for the food, not just travel.
And just to be clear, that the per diem or the travel is established by the program. The city does not do this on their own. So pending the city go and one, and number two, be 100% clear that it does not cover our regular salaries. They give us pennies on the dollar to like cover little things, but the reality is like it doesn't cover it all. So if it's a 3-day event, traveling one day, traveling the other day, you have no money, you might get it for one full day that you're in the conference, and then everything else is could be signed. So I want to be cautious that we do very, very, very little traveling, and two, even that per diem is like so little that most of us put money out of our pocket to be able to go to this event. But I know that there's a specific why in the federal levels categorize that important for the audits. But go ahead, Mr. Kamali.
Only, the travel that if you look at the, definition and expenditure, you see that. And as Mayor said, we don't travel that much. Like if you look at City Hall budget, I never used much travel. And in the only time that we go to MML, which, we have to, and I have to take the staff to, to get updated with the new technology. And, the world is moving at the fast pace, and I just have to be there and make sure that everyone is there. And this happens only once a year. But look at other departments, most of the time we don't use that much travel.
No, I know, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
changing the word so the community understands
So
better.
let's move on to the next one, and then it's like if you need some, so I will add it because that will move through it. All right, so we have Derek Reynolds for 4,000 block of 32nd Street. Derek, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and everyone. Thanks for all of this work and the ability to comment on this. One thing I want to say is that a couple things. One is I'm very much in favor of the money you guys are looking at allocating for community events and community outreach. I think that's really important. I really also am in favor of the scholarship funds increase, as you said, because of what's happening with the Department of Education, and that's all of our tax funds. And I would like our community to continue to support our own students. I also am in great favor of the Community Arts Center funding that you're allocating. And the one question I have, and I don't know if you have a great answer for it, but my understanding is that the Safe Streets grant, or whatever it's called, is a huge amount of this budget. What happens if the federal government pulls that back or freezes it or something? Do we have a contingency budget for the city that we're doing to plan for that? Thank you.
So I will start off, and I'll pass to Mr. Kamali. We have to do a 20% match, and it's a line item. It's not the whole entire budget. The whole entire budget is staffing. But Mr. Kamali, you could go ahead and talk about it.
No, I appreciate your question, but we are in, bi-weekly meeting with the Federal Highway Department, and they have ensured us that our grant is okay because our grant is active right now, and we have sent some invoices, and hopefully that's what they're telling us. But we never know what's going to happen next. But that's something maybe we have, to look at it in the future. But at any point, if the grant is gone, we can stop those projects. So
Yeah.
we have to really go through the expenses.
So I'm gonna have Jared answer, and then I'll wrap it up if I need to. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, Derek, just some clarity, because I've worked on this issue both on the federal side and in my day job and stuff. And you are correct, there is some uncertainty right now, and we are all tracking this internally very carefully. If you may have seen in the news, this probably is where your questions coming from. There was a re-examination of US DOT of safe, basically bicycle and green, and they kind of have this like DI, quote DI bucket. There was a recent memo about a week and a half ago that was reviewing all active grants. However, that did not apply to grants that were already obligated. And the obligation it's not spent, but it's the contract, when the contract is signed between the Federal Highway Administration, USDOT, and the grantee, which is Mount Rainier in this case. So once that grant is obligated, those funds are, well, protected. Now, this administration's been doing some mucking around, but like everything that we're hearing is that that review, if you will, which I don't think is actually candidly legal, for awarded grants or partially obligated, does not apply to us because we have already obligated the entire 9.7 million, which we will spend over 5 years with a roughly $500,000 non-federal match every year and about two-ish million every year.
Yeah.
To do a little under 2 million every year of federal spending.
2 points.
So the other point, just to wrap it up, is like, please, be aware that we are lobbying both, working with the state partners and also with the federal grant, partners. So that's a lot of the heavy work that I've been doing, not just like fighting to get these grants to be able to make them available, but also making sure that we get to keep them. And we're like, it's increased my meetings by a lot, you know, to make sure that we're up to date with the various changes that are coming through and making sure that, you know, we could follow through the requirements. We're in a better position than most people because our team worked heavily, and we're lucky that we have a grant writer and a whole, like, you know, finance department that helped through as well, led heavily by Mr. Kamali, right, in order to make sure that happened. But we're watching everything that's happened, and, you know, and if decisions need to be made, we'll bring it out to the table and figure out what plans are. But there are plan B and plan C and plan D in format. Like I said, we have a 20% match, and every year in the budget, we usually have put money forward for streets and sidewalks regardless, right? Now that we have used this money to match it, but it's been standard for maybe what, the last 7 years or more. It was like a 2% or something like that. 5% that's been added to the budget to make sure that we do street and sidewalks. So that's part of the 20% that we need to do, but 100% we're watching it closely. You put a comment, so I'm gonna read the comment this time, but usually if you speak, I don't read the follow-up comments because that feels like it's a double dipping, okay? It says one follow-up, no USID and CFP implements has awarded grants and obligated money in those referrals that are not paid, just for keep in mind. USDA and others as well, just 100%.
Yeah,
Trust me, we are like diligently following through, but definitely thank you for bringing it up. And as we all know, we have various residents that work for USID, but also work for federal government that have lost their jobs, you know, so we're definitely getting also feedback, you know, from some of them, and definitely appreciate the feedback you give us. But 100% we're watching it and getting ready for whatever is to come. You know, hopefully everything's fine. We have submitted some invoices and we're waiting to get answers on them, you know, following through. But at least in our side, our team is doing everything they can, both at the federal and state level, as well as like in-house, to make sure that we abide by every single item that we can to make sure it's not a problem. So I don't see the screen anymore. Anybody else following us on Zoom that would like to sign up to speak? I know it's been a long day, so we definitely appreciate you guys. If you guys have been here since the morning and following through, we appreciate you guys very much, because I know you guys will be doing anything you want on this beautiful Saturday. But if you're watching this in any other time, you know, we definitely appreciate you guys following through and listening to the budget, because it's a very important part of who we are in the values to hold us a city. And there's a reason why we put the money where we do. All right, anything else? I'll give it enough time to on it. Okay, seeing that we have nobody else, public comment or a statement?
Thanks. I'd just like to say two things in response to public comment. One, on the travel and the conventions. The big convention costs, as Mr. Kamali was saying, was MML. And as I think Jarrett was saying early on, the ROI, the return on investment for the cost of going to these things is incredible. So what Jarrett was saying earlier on when we were looking at the amount of grant money that we bring into this city is incredible and allows us to do many of the capital projects that happen across the city. And the reason why that happens is because when we go to MML, they have a secretary's roundtable where we plan, we strategize, we look at our budget and the priorities that we put out in public meetings, and we sit down directly, one-on-one FaceTime with these secretaries of these very important agencies at the state level. and we say what our priorities are. They aren't 100 things. There are these 2 things that we need. And then our staff follows up with their staff, and we get their cards, and we have meetings, and we bring them to the city of Mount Rainier. They see it firsthand. And then when we submit our grant application, that the people at the state are like, oh yeah, we know Mount Rainier. We talked to them, boom. And we have gotten so much money for a little city our size. We are pounding way over our weight. Like, it's incredible. Pound for pound, I would put us against any municipality in the state of Maryland for how much grant money we bring in. And so, like, that's the one thing, like, I would never want to cut, because that would have a detriment effect on our ability to bring in grant funding. So that's one thing I just want to say. And the second one thing I want to say is about the SS4A funding, and comparing it to other things like USAID and CDC. There are a couple things that make me feel hopeful with the SS4A money, and I shouldn't even, hopeful is the wrong word, confident is a better word with the SS4A money. One, SS4A was funded by a bipartisan infrastructure bill. There are a lot of Republican districts out there who went to DOT right away when everything was happening at USAID and CDC, and in helping to make sure that the funding in Republican districts was going to be protected. That's one thing that's very good, that differentiates us, that DOT is not under the same bullseye as some of these other organizations. There's no Secretary of, like USDA, Secretary of State's looking to take control of it. That's not the same dynamic is not happening with DOT. The second thing that gives me a lot of confidence in this area, the memo that Jarrett mentioned, okay, that was like the opening salvo. That's like the worst that can happen. We are not underneath that memo because our funds have been fully obligated. So the worst thing that, you know, like Danielle was saying about negotiating, like at USDA, their first grab was like, we're just shutting down the whole thing. At education, there's like, we're shutting down the whole thing. That's like their opening salvo, and then they'll see how the courts will react. What DOT did is DOT saw how the courts were reacting to those, and their initial salvo was, okay, we're not going to look at anything that's been fully obligated because it looks like the courts are pushing back at that. We're going to look at everything that hasn't been fully obligated yet, and we're going to look at these things. This gets a little bit tricky, but even that opening salvo might get reversed because DOT took a look at, what was it? They took a look at another grant or something, and maybe it was climate related, and they went out with memo, and then they reversed the memo like a week later because there was bipartisan pushback. So even though we have this opening salvo, even though we're not covered by this opening salvo, they may even reverse this opening salvo. So I think we're in a very good space. Now, is that a risk-free space? No, that is not a risk-free space. But is it a better place than we could be? Absolutely, yes. So I think there's voice for optimism and confidence there. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And the other thing, when it comes to the partners that we have, both NLC and MML, there are lobbyists, and you know, when it comes to advocating, and they advocate like as a block, right? So NLC and MML are both bipartisan organizations. NLC is like the national, like, you know, league when it comes to all of them. And I'll tell you this, like, it's bipartisan. You have people from various backgrounds and information, political, everything, but we're all pushing to make sure that infrastructure on it. So they have been around for 100 years now, and they have worked with every single administration. So us not attending or not being part of this, it keeps us a voice away from the tables that we talk. So when it comes to directly talking to the secretary, so directly talking to the department, like, you know, heads, right? When it comes at a federal level, that's the important conversations that we as small city, they might not be entertaining a meeting with us being as small as we are. Because you're talking about just in Maryland, there's 157 municipalities plus another 18 the special districts, plus like you have the county councils of like various on it, right? So there's a lot of competition on it, but we try to do our best to come in together and have priorities that we co-share in order for us to advocate for the things that we need. And at the federal level, just to like follow up with what Luke and even Jared was saying, right? The $9.7 million in the state of Maryland for implementation, we were the only city, okay? The only city statewide in Maryland that received that funding in the second. We were like in the second round, but we were the only ones. So, you know, which has a lot because we have partners with these organizations that helped us to be able to do this because we will need a staff of at least maybe a good 20 people to be able to provide the data, information, and resources and advocacy and put us on it. But we have been able, at least like, part of the work that I've done is like we have gone to the White House, be able to speak to the various chairs and so on, for them to realize like, this is what we're doing. And not only that, the big thing is also bring some of those people back to our city, that when you're competing with cities like nationwide, the city of Rainier is like this little tiny little city compared to major cities that are around, but the goal and it's the same. We're all trying to like better our communities, speak up for our communities. And when it comes to like, our various, department directors, same thing. They have gone out there and come back with several grants, build relationships, and come back with funding. So I'll tell you this, I'm ridiculously proud of how much this team works to be able to punch above their way, bring resources that we can, right? And find ways to connect and network so that when you guys have a problem, or we want to build on something positive, right? We have connections in various ways to be able to outreach that. For a city our size, may not be big radars of people, but we do have a great team, all around. And I know that Jared and Luke might not officially be there, but they're still supporting us in every single way. The same way it's like whenever we have like reach out to Brian or Mary Miles or Shavali or Jimmy or Francis Zebra as an example, when we have needed like any information, they have come through if we need to. So basically, even as people transition, they are very heavily invested in what the community is and everything that they do. So that's something that we have, we're fortunate to have a wealth of knowledge our hands, and people that are willing to say like, I'm here and supportive. So that's always been very helpful. And a team that like, puts up to par, because we come in and more like, we just went to a conference. This is who we talked to, please follow through with it. And this is the grants we need to look into. And they get on it right away. So that's been very efficient. But again, on the backside, we have submitted every document and more that they needed for them to know that the commitment is real when it comes to the city. All right, so I don't see nobody else honest. We were giving also some time. Thank you, Luke, for like, the extra feedback. I think is important because there's been a lot of legwork to get us, Jared as well, and the whole entire team. I know you guys don't like me working really hard, but I am closing officially public comment at 12:50. And moving on to item number 5, adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, seconded.
This will probably move in a second discussion. Hearing none, this meeting officially comes to an end at 12:50 p.m. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Well, it worked. All right, thank you, staff.